Sit.
Good afternoon. This is the Board of Appeals, Town of Hempstead, May 7th, 2 o'clock meeting. Mr. Chairman, do you have any opening remarks?
Good afternoon. We see we have a lot of people we haven't seen before. So the way the hearings are conducted are as follows. First, we will call for any adjournments. If there are any requests for an adjournment, we'll take those cases first, and then we'll get into the calendar. The hearings are conducted, the applicant first makes their case or attempts to make their case. If there are any people who are here objecting to the case, we will allow each and every one of you to voice your objections. And finally, the applicant is given the opportunity to sum up. Once we close, then we close the cases. Once we close the case, we will not accept any additional evidence. All right? We're very liberal in terms of the evidence that we will accept prior to the close of a case. We're not constrained by the rules, formal rules of evidence. This is not a court of law. This is an administrative body. For those of you who want to repeat something that someone before you said, either for or against a particular application, you're free to say, I agree with the person who spoke before me. So if you don't want to elaborate, you're not required to, okay? The proceedings are videotaped, they're archived. So for those of you who would like to refer to them in the future, you're free to do so. We do have a court reporter here. Court reporter will take everything down. And I believe that's all I have to say. Patrick?
First, we'll be calling case 21525 near Island Park, Jose A. Espinoza. Variance, subdivision of lot area, front width from and on street line to front setback line, construct dwelling.
Wait, hey, Patrick?
Yes, sir.
Are there no applications for adjournment?
I apologize. There is one application for adjournment. Case 678-24, Hewlett Rockaway Portfolio LLC, also known as 56 East Rockaway Road.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. Mike?
Requesting a further adjournment. This is a temporary grant for a trailer. We asked for the last adjournment because my client did suffer a death in his immediate family. He has made progress towards the final certificate for the trailer. He has the electrical sign-off. He had a final survey done and submitted that to the building department. They did an inspection off that survey. There's a couple comments we have to address, and he also submitted the final architect certification. He has reached out to the fire marshal's office as well, so he's working towards getting that certificate. And it's my understanding the board doesn't want to finalize the extension until we get that certificate, so we're asking for a further adjournment.
Okay.
We also did file, we got the denial letter for the permanent building, and we filed most of the variance application. For the permanent building, we're just waiting for the radius maps and chain of title.
How long do you think you'll need?
I'm going to request 2 months. That way I, come back and give you an update if he doesn't have it by then.
Patrick?
Mr. Chairman, we can do July 16th. Just gonna push out about 3, but that's, yeah, July 16th.
July 16th,
That works.
2:30, 2 o'clock?
2 o'clock.
Thank you.
Welcome.
The signs have to be updated.
Yep.
It's a renewal. We need posting.
Oh, okay.
No, like, why are we adjourning a renewal? Yes, it's all renewal.
Okay. We'll be calling case 215-25 near Island Park, Jose Espinoza. Variances, subdivision of lot area, front width from and on street line to front setback line, construct dwelling, north side Delaware Avenue, 170 feet east of Broadway, as well as case 216-25 near Island Park, Jose Espinoza. Variances, subdivision of lot area, lot area occupied, front width from and on street line to front setback line, side yards aggregate, maintained dwelling on a lesser lot, also known as 1042 Delaware Avenue.
Oh, thank you. Name is Frank Demerly, architect with Demerly Design Studio, 330 Sunrise Highway.
Speak slower and louder.
Oh, sorry. I just didn't. Frank Demerly, Demerly Design Studio, architect, 330 Sunrise Highway, Suite 110, Rockville Center.
And you're here on behalf of
The applicant.
Jose Espinosa.
Yes, ma'am.
I have to put glasses on for this one.
We're seeking variance relief for a minimum width of the side yard, of a yard, which is 30 feet.
Wait, let's back up. You're seeking to subdivide a piece of property.
Correct.
That's one of the variances you seek. And then you have, each piece has some same variances and some additional variances.
That's
Go ahead.
right. So we have the lot coverage proposed is going to comply. The minimum front width of 55 feet.
Excuse me. Speak a little more slowly
I'm sorry,
because I
my
really
brain goes
can't.
faster than my mouth.
Well,
Okay,
okay.
well, you better.
Give your
time
brain
to
time to
your
catch
brain.
up.
Okay.
So, sometimes when people present subdivision cases, for example, you have two lots here, and at some point you'll need to speak about them separately, like on lot, whatever you want to call it, the 215 lot versus the 216 lot. And so you start with like what you wish to create in the way of a subdivision. So it looks like it's 230 by 100 lots. You want to divide a 60 by 100 into a 30 by, into two 30s, and you want to maintain the structure on one of them and build another structure on the other one.
That is,
And then each needs certain variances. So go
Yeah,
ahead,
that-
pick it up from there.
yes, that is exactly correct. We have one lot that's 60 by 100. There's an existing house currently, which is 1042. It's a one-family structure. We're looking to divide the lot in half, which is 30 feet by 100, and propose another new dwelling unit on that site.
Right. And a 30 by 100 lot creates a 3,000 square foot lot. And in the town of Hempstead, lots, building lots are properly 6,000 square feet. Like, it is a building lot as it is. And it's not 1 square foot bigger than a building lot. It literally is the minimum building lot size, 6,000. You want to create two 3,000 square foot lots, so you're first asking for a lot area, meaning I want to make a building lot that is smaller than 6,000, but I want it to be approved as a lot upon which I can put a dwelling.
That is correct.
And then,
So you're looking for a 50% variance.
Correct. The reason that we're asking for this variance is that because of the block itself, there are several houses along this street that has 30 feet by 60. There's about-
How many, if you will, how many of those homes were recently built, or have they been there for a long period of time?
As to my knowledge, they've been there for a long time. I have photographs and I have a board to show you guys which houses and where they are located along the block.
who took the photographs?
I did.
And did they
Fairly
fairly
inaccurate.
accurately represent what they purport to represent? They haven't been altered in
No,
any way?
it has not, ma'am, and I have materials of which wasn't put into that set of drawings that weren't asked, but I could put it up on the easel and explain to you.
To the best of your knowledge and belief, have there been any other variances granted recently allowing 30-foot width on lots?
Not that I know of.
So is it safe to say that the other lots, the 30-footers, were pre-existing non-conforming lots?
I'm assuming that would be the case.
I'm sorry, sir. Are you Frank Tremmel?
Yes.
Oh,
Yes.
Pronounce your last name.
Demerly.
I'm sorry. So I'm looking at the radius map, and I only see two other lots that are 30 by 100. I see some 40s. few 40s, fair number of 50s, some 60s, some 80s, but I really only see two other 30 by 100s. They are on the same street, and they are to the east of the lot, the two lots you have or wish to have. And there's a lot next to it to the east, and then the next two lots to the east appear to be a similar subdivision as what you propose. But I don't see any other 30s. Hold on, can't hear you. Okay, what would help the most is if you can go back so we can hear you, the microphone. We have this radius map. So if you refer to them by name or number or lot number, we can follow along.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
You don't have a radius? Hold on,
Hold on a second.
we're gonna give you a radius map. Not mine. I can't give you this one. I'll give you that one. No, because I got this one, John.
Is it safe to say that if you grant this application, you got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5,
Oh, I do see another 30 that I didn't see before. Oh, no, yeah, here it is.
bunch of 30s?
No, there's not. There's those two.
I got it.
Okay, so if you wanna deal right now with telling us about the other lots in the area that you think provide some support for your proposal, then if you can refer to them either by the name of the, you're looking at the radius map, so
Yep.
you can see what we see, so you
Okay.
can direct us that
So-
way to show us
We're
what you
looking
think
at
supports.
lot 148,
Yes,
lot 150,
150,
oh, 156, sorry, 156.
Yeah.
Exactly.
157,
right.
Right.
and then you have, according to this map,
See, I don't see any others. There's some 40s.
That's all right, forget it. I want Chandler to follow this so that he'll learn.
the other one is actually past the 200-foot mark on the radius map,
Oh.
which is 7 blocks down, so it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, yeah, so lot 170 would be 171, that's,
Well, 170's here.
yeah, no, it's not on the radius map, but it's along that block is the 30-foot.
Well, I see 170 on the radius map.
Well, it's one, yeah, I don't know what the numbers are after 170.
Correct, agreed.
So one of those is as well.
There's another.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so I don't know, one thing you should address in your presentation, besides showing us others that fit the scenario you'd like to pursue, is we also do take into account other lots that are large enough to do what you've done, what you want to do.
Okay.
So like when we see all these 60s, you know, we think about the precedential, meaning
The repercussions of you
Right.
allowing us to do that, yes.
of this grant. First of all, we say, that we look at the character, and I personally, I can only speak, look at the character and say, well, there's only 3 others, and other than that, it doesn't look like a neighborhood that's made up of a lot of 30s. Then I look at it and say, and in addition, if we were to grant this 30, I see a lot of lots that would lend themselves into carving up this neighborhood from like nice single-family dwellings into a lot of little choppy stuff.
Cubby holes.
So,
You have-
I'm
you
just
have-
telling you that so you can tell us.
There are 5 lots directly across the street. If the board were to grant this case, there are 5 lots directly across the street that
2 on the same
theoretically, and 2 on the same side, that could also be subdivided into 30s.
Agreed.
But anyway, so go into your, we're
Go
just
ahead.
trying to give you the framework to tell us about your request.
I mean, there's not much more than the fact that we'd like to just subdivide it and try to keep, we looked at, we didn't take into account that if you allow us this variance, then other people will follow behind us. We just were thinking that it would stay within the continuation of the street line where the buildings all set back and all have the same setbacks as this one proposed. The building itself is not gonna look any different than all the other ones along that block, and we were just asking for the relief of that spot zoning.
Does Mr. Espinoza live in either one of the structures?
No, but he will live on the other one.
Is he a builder?
Yes.
Okay. Well, I'm just gonna, at least for the basics, walk through. So on lot 215, which is the lot that you wanna carve off and construct a dwelling on, besides requesting a subdivision of the lot and the lot area, which is the 3,000 square feet, you're requesting a variance on the front width of it. And actually, that's your only other variance on that one. So, do you know what your front width is supposed to be? It's a Residence B zone,
Its minimum front width is 55 feet.
Okay,
55, and you're requesting 30.
30.
Yes,
Right.
ma'am.
Okay, so just again, to get the basic numbers, lot 216 is the lot that you want to leave the dwelling on or carve off some of the land to put in the other lot. On that one, you need the subdivision, you need the lot area, as we discussed. You also need lot area occupied, which is to say, normally, you have a lot, building lot, and you're only allowed in a Residence B occupy 27.5%. So you're making a request here to occupy some amount more than that. Can you tell us how
How
much?
much?
No, the 27.5% is 825. The house that we're looking to do is only 796, so we're below that number, so we're not asking for a relief for that.
27.5 is a percentage.
Correct. No, but I'm,
That's on the maintained?
correct, so it's 27.5 times 3,000 gives you 825 square feet. This building is being proposed is 796,
So why are you here for lot area occupied?
Excuse me?
Why are you here for lot area occupied?
You were denied by the building department as needing also lot area occupied.
Occupied.
Meaning the building department determined
Yes.
that your request, whatever plans you gave them, that your request is to occupy on the new lot, the new dwelling, more than 27.5%.
Right.
I disagree with that. I mean, it's,
One moment. Becky, can you look that one up?
Yep.
She's an expert from the building department.
no worries.
Okay, while we wait on that, you also were denied front width, which we've already gone over. That's on
Correct.
both lots, 55 versus 30. Side yard and side yard aggregate.
So
So what are your
what are you
side yard
proposing?
and side yard aggregate that you propose compared to what is supposed to be maintained?
The individual side yard shall be width of less than 50% of the width of the opposite side yard. We're proposing 5 feet on both sides, a total of 10 feet. The aggregate of the 200 feet is 9.9. So we comply with that as well.
No, apparently, the building department's interpretation of these materials you submitted to them was that you have one or more of the side lots is not what's
Not
required.
required.
And the side yard aggregate, meaning the sum of the two, is also not what's required. In the old days, it was a 5, no less than 5 on either one, and a net of 15. Some of the lots now have a calculation that's not as black and white as that, it's more of a percentage, but we can find out from Ms. First, because she is not just our resident expert, she's literally the entire building department expert. So let's give her a sec to make those calculations. Limited time. Is there anything else you wish to tell us about why this is not something that, why we should grant what is very, very significant variances, just so you know? I mean, when we get, sometimes we get people who ask for 250s,
Right.
and depending on the character of the neighborhood and the rest of the prongs of the tests we apply as required by law, we don't always even grant 250s.
Okay.
So just,
I mean, there's not much more to it. It's pretty straightforward from our side. We didn't think that it would impact the structure or the fabric of the street. knowing that the other buildings will look the same as well as there's 5 or other ones that have the same characteristics and height and width.
If we would have granted it,
Another condition we often put on subdivisions if we grant them, often, well, almost always, we require that once some people come in and they're gonna live in one of the houses and sell the other. And sometimes it's someone who does the floors of living, that's why I asked if your client was a builder, and they wanna build 2 homes and sell them off and try to make a little money on the side. And even in those cases, we usually include a condition that once they're built and occupied, they need to be owner occupied, because a lot of neighborhoods aren't looking to have rental houses, as the landlords
I
maybe.
understand.
So, tell us when you're ready for us, that we just look at the,
trying to create his own hardship. Yeah.
he says the sidewalks are 5'5" and put it's in, I don't know if it's standard 5'15", percentage.
Yeah.
Wait, but he says they're both 5. Wait, where's the construction? Hold on. Side yard, side yard. So it's one side. I just want to know the number. Right? And so he needs a side yard too. He was denied the side yard. Just, no, let's just stay on this side. On the new lot, the main, the construct, no, on the, on this one. Yes.
How did they mess up? Yep.
So,
Does that, is there anything you'd like to add before we take the objections?
No, not at this moment.
we'll give you a chance to speak after, okay?
You'll be able to sum.
But I would like it if you could take down that thing so we can see the other folks.
There is, I'll go down in water. Somebody gives it to me, fine. Yeah. It's hard. Ah, got it.
Yes. Don't you, John?
Yeah. Yep.
speak about this particular case, we're going to have you all stand, so you can all be sworn in at once, and then we'll have you come over to the podium here when you're called by the chairman, and you'll already be sworn in, and you can speak and tell us what you want us to know about this case.
Alice Hellner? Is Alice?
Come on down. You know that, John, right?
You have to be of a certain age.
I will. Good afternoon. My name is Alice L. Hellner. I reside at 150 Delaware Avenue in Island Park. I live to the right, to the left, and across the street from the building in question. I lived there since I'm 8 years old. My husband and I raised our children there.
Hellner.
We had a crack house across the street. Police were there all the time. And all the people were coming and going all sorts through the night, the screaming and the yelling. Finally, we got them out.
Are you referring to the subject property or a different property?
Next door to them.
Oh.
Please understand, the school is 3 blocks from Delaware Avenue. The block consists of young children and their parents, hard-working adults and homeowners, and senior citizens. I am a 20-year cancer survivor. I get rides to and from the doctor. I need sometimes help getting dropped off in front of my house. If this building goes up, there'll be traffic all the time. And sometimes the driver has to get out of the car and help me up the steps. I am against the building of any kind of structure at 1042 Delaware. Thank you. I appreciate for taking the time out to listen to our grievances.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right.
Congratulations.
Next
on your
up.
overcoming that.
Carol Stressler? Stressler, Carol. Get her. Where is she?
My name is Carol Stressler. I live at 1045 Delaware Avenue, Island Park. My question in regard to this petition, I've been told it is a 4-bedroom, 1 kitchen structure. Is this 4-bedroom structure going to be a boarding house, a halfway house?
It's not proposed as such.
It's what?
It's not proposed.
As that, it's proposed as
As
a
a
single-family
family
dwelling.
dwelling.
No, there's one dwelling there, they're proposing an additional dwelling, right?
The building next to it is already a multiple dwelling.
Wait, what is?
The building next to
That's
it
not
at that
germane to the issue.
address is already a multiple dwelling building.
Okay, if I'm staring at the existing house at 1042,
Yeah,
are you telling me the building to the right or to the left?
well, if you're looking at it, it's to my right.
Okay.
If you're
The-
standing across the street and looking at that house we're talking about,
I'm sorry, I cannot hear you.
my bad.
If you're standing in your house, looking across the street at the house at 1042, are you referring to the house to the right of that or to the left of that?
I wouldn't be if I was standing across the street, The structure they want to build would be to my left. The other home, which is already a multiple dwelling structure, would be to my right.
So is it 1043?
No. 1043 was the crack house that it took us 11
I'm asking you
years.
about which, I know 1042 is the subject property.
They will
I'm
both
ask-
be 1042.
I'm asking you which lot
Ma'am,
has
hold on.
the multifamily dwelling you're referring to?
It doesn't, neither one of them.
Is this going to be a building or a house?
It is, ma'am, it's proposed to be, ma'am,
I have no idea what I'm looking at.
Carol? She's having difficulty here.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. It would, if I were looking at it, it would be to my left. Is that the empty lot? That's the empty 30 by 100. Okay. Oh, that's the poor people next to it. Yeah, then this is the parcel next to it. Yes. This happens to be a residential.
Ms. Stressler,
Yes.
it is proposed to be a residence. If you don't mind, could you confine your comments to telling us how, if this application were granted, it would adversely affect you? You said there's a problem with parking.
Yes,
Okay.
that also.
What else? What other problems would it generate?
The other
if-
problems are, there is a school 2.5 blocks from this block. It is a residential area. We have new families with young children. We're concerned about traffic. We're concerned about transient occupiers of that address. How are they going to address the new structure? The numbers on our block go one after the other. They are at 1042. Then there's 1043, 44, that's how it goes. The people next to them are 1041. I am already living next to a 30-foot monstrosity where my house faces an alley. The block is not built for it. It's not built for the excess traffic, nor for the quality of living on the block, nor for the fact that there are very young children and a school 2.5 blocks away. And there is no reason for it. These are 30 by 100 plots. I feel it will set a precedent for anybody who is looking to retire next year in Florida, saying, I have an extra lot, and I want to build a 4-family unit on it, 30 feet high. That is not in keeping with what we have kept our street, which is where
Right.
everybody's trying to improve it, not bring it down.
This is not proposed to be a 4-family residence, but we understand what you're saying. Thank you for your comments.
Thank you.
Okay? Lori, I'm afraid I'm not going to pronounce your last name correctly, so we'll just call you Lori.
Hi, good afternoon. My name is Lori Bedaneschi. I reside at 158 Delaware Avenue. I've been on the block for 23 years, love it, and really to just sum it up, it's the whole quality of life. I'm very fluent with the building codes and whatnot.
158.
I understand about
158
subdividing the lot, and whoever spoke first, he's wrong, because the house is proposed set back. It's not in line with the other properties on the block. It's going to make the 1042 that is currently existing, that will place that house illegal because they're only going to be 2.5 feet on the left side of the house and like 7.5 feet or something on the right side. So, I mean, and there's just so many hazards to consider. I mean, I can go on and on. I put it in writing, you know, in a letter.
We have that.
But it is true. It's the quality of life. I live there. I raised my kids there. I got, you know, new grandchildren there, and it's quite busy. The cars in and out. It's brutal. It's real brutal, and I've never done this before, and it has nothing to do. It's all about other things, but I'm very concerned about it. You know, quite upset and whatever. But I'm a little upset even with the town. It's like, how could this even be proposed? But I just.
You can
I know,
propose
I
anything
know,
you'd like.
And that's why I'm here. I just
Okay.
hope that, you know, I just wanted a voice, which I've never done, so I feel a little nervous right now, but I'm hoping. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Frank,
Frank what?
same last name.
Betnesh. Are you also at 158?
Yes,
Yes.
158 Delaware. My concern is a little more,
Could you speak
Louder,
into the mic?
slower, and closer.
Okay.
so my concern is more about safety. There's a reason why the town of Hempstead makes us put garages, sheds, pools 4 feet away from our property line. If this house is erected, the existing house,
Go ahead.
the existing house would have 2.5 feet. There is no way that the fire department can get to those windows. Those are bedrooms along each side. There is no way the fire department can make a rescue from those windows. You can't get a ladder in there. A couple weeks ago, North Babylon had a fire and the houses were too close together and they lost both houses. 8 people were injured, including 1 firefighter. In the Village Island Park a week ago, the same thing happened. The houses were too close together, and we pretty much lost 1.5 houses. So I think you're going to hear a lot about quality of life and parking and what have you, but I really think you should look into the safety aspect of this. There is no way that the fire department can get down 2.5 feet and make a save. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Steve Garon.
Good afternoon, Steve Goron, 142 Delaware Ave, Island Park. First, I'd like to say, Ms. D'Amato, Armand D'Amato was the attorney that helped my parents in 1970 buy their first house, their dream house, the house that I was raised in. So thank you to the family and the connection. I still live in that house to this day, which is directly across the street from said property in question.
But you're at 142 Delaware?
142.
Yeah. Yep.
Before I say anything further, I would like to actually address Mr. Espinoza, who I did see in the room earlier. There's nothing that I'm going to say that's personal against him or his company or his ability to possibly purchase a piece of property, develop it, etc. As you're looking at that map, you see the property I'm on is 80 by 100. I heard you say, wow, there's certain properties that could be split and divided. I would love to do that. I wish I had the money. I wish I had the ability to develop and create more income, etc., and provide more housing, but that's just not the case.
Can I just ask you, I'm trying to find your lot since you reference it again.
142, directly across.
They go down to 148, and then I see lot 47 and 46. Okay, thank you.
I'm,
Well,
Under Chris.
you're across the
Dahlgren,
street.
yeah,
Right,
literally directly
right.
across.
Thank you.
So here's what I'd like to say, going back to talking about my parents. My mother, she happens to be 92 years old, still with us, God bless her,
Steve.
was actually physically born in the house directly behind the said property on the next street on Pennsylvania Avenue. I know this has nothing to do with it, but part of the emotional story, like Frank said, about residents coming up here, is my mom was physically born in a house that she can still see to this day by looking through that property. That's pretty unique. It's pretty amazing. Unfortunately, if the property is granted, you guys give the okay, and that house is built, it changes the view. And I completely understand that. I respect it. I respect the fact of progress, change, creating more housing, et cetera. But if, I would imagine that almost everybody in this room is a town of Hempstead resident, Nassau County resident, Long Island, et cetera. There are certain communities that, I don't want to say that we're still in the past, but little enclaves that haven't changed, that are still unique, small, little tight-knit communities. Barnum Isle in the Island Park section happens to be one of them. Some of your questions earlier from the attorney, I'm not a professional, so I don't want to say something incorrect, but just my judgment, when you were stating that, or asking the question, were there any other properties on our street that were granted a new variance to go down to 30-foot plots? I've lived in my house my entire life. I know of no new structures in the 56 years that I'm there that would qualify to what your question was. So those houses, if there are 30 by 100 plots, were built in 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s, long time ago. Which brings me to my next point. If the structure is built, if you look at 1042 right now and the existing open property, there's a very nice large driveway. When we were kids, that driveway happened to be the playground spot for the neighborhood because it was a nice large plot of property. Anyway, currently 1042 utilizes that spot where the new proposed house would be as their driveway. And there's roughly, usually on average, about 4 vehicles that are parked on that lot. Now, if you build a new house, you're going to force those 4 vehicles out onto our street. Nassau County, Island Park, Long Beach, et cetera, we're packed with parking as it is. So now you're going to take those 4 cars, put them on the street. Now you're going to introduce potentially 2, 3, 4 more adults living in the new house that might have 1, 2, 3, 4 cars or more. Granted, they might have a driveway. I haven't seen the plans exactly specific to myself. But I imagine no matter what, some of those vehicles are going to get put on the road. So the quality of life and the questions about that, the aesthetics of the neighborhood, certainly a new structure would look great. I understand that, I appreciate that, but you're going to physically change the characteristic of the neighborhood, of our block. We don't live, and I'm not saying this disparagingly, we don't live in the west end of Long Beach, where it's, you can open a window and shake your neighbor's hand. And to Mr. Bedineshi's comment, about the fire department and safety, how they deal with that down there, I have absolutely no idea. So I imagine that would be a serious safety concern for you guys. So again, like I said, I have nothing against Mr. Espinoza and his desire and ability to put up another structure, provide more housing to the community. We all know housing is in desperate need, but I just, unfortunately, in my heart, don't think it's the right thing for our community and that street. So thank you very much
Thank
for your
you.
time.
Bernard Langdon. He sits on the 30 by 100. It was pre-existing, not conforming.
Hi, good afternoon. I'm Bernard Langdon. I reside at 1044 Delaware Avenue, Island Park, New York, 115581999. I have been a resident at this location for the last 25 years. In terms of this domicile 1042 Delaware Avenue, Mr. Espinoza has been an absentee landlord for many years. There are multiple people living there at any given time. If I had to guesstimate, 15 to 20. Currently, there is a boat in the driveway. There have been 2 jet skis there. There have been multiple cars in the driveway. Now, this is was a single width driveway. It has, without notification, which is another point I'm going to bring up in a moment, ended up being a double width driveway. Now, I know it's not the town's responsibility as to where the sign is placed. It's the resident, and they are to, well, I shouldn't say, because he's an absentee landlord, it's his responsibility to post the sign in a viewable place. Well, Mr. Espinoza did put up the billboard sign notification behind his house in the backyard, not in the front. Obviously, somebody had called the town and said, we only knew about this when we got notified in writing that he's going for a zoning variance, which then all of a sudden, the sign appeared in the front yard in plain view for everyone to see. As I understand, we're also talking about not only the width between the houses being under 3 feet, just over 2 feet, if you will, where I know it's supposed to be minimal of 5 feet. It's supposed to be 3 stories, if I understand as well. Are we going to turn this 1042 that is already housing multiple people with an absentee landlord, and you said that, well, I believe if this was his attorney that was speaking on his behalf, that Mr. Espinoza will be residing at one of the residences, should this variance be. I don't see that happening. I see both of them being, if you will, rentals. And especially now if you're talking about a 3-story house, three floors, how many more people are we going to have? Where are you going to put all this parking for all these people? Again, we have young families, children, grandchildren, I myself as well. The aesthetics for just the town, for our street alone, it's disgusting to see even something
Real tight.
asked for permission to build on a lot like this. I currently live on a lot that is 30 by 100. My neighbor next door, Carol Stressler at 1045 Delaware, is also on a lot 30 by 100. Both our houses were built over 100 years ago. I believe it was either 1921 or 1922. So, can't change the fact they've already been existing. But now you're talking about taking a 60 by 100 lot and splitting it in half, but you're still not meeting zone requirements in terms of that minimum 5 feet. And I just, as I said, it's going to create a problem with where we're already a crowded street with no parking. This 1042 is supposed to be a single residential home, not multi-family homes or multi-people homes. Yes, they're quiet, they're clean, but that does not change the fact of parking, which is a horrendous situation already. You build another house and you're going to allow potentially another 30 people there. I have a common driveway with my neighbor. It's a shared driveway, so a lot of times I have no choice but to park in the driveway because unfortunately Carol's husband passed away a few years ago, and so she does not drive, so I use the driveway. But again, that's not always the case. I mean, if anyone has any type of company over, we're parking blocks away because there's no parking.
Well, it's nice to hear neighbors actually have that amount of agreement these days, because we don't see a lot of that you share the driveway with your neighbor.
Right, and again, it's the biggest thing, as I said, the parking, the amount of people that you're potentially letting in, and the aesthetics for our block. It's just, it's not appropriate.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Would the applicant's representative like to sum up? Is there anyone else who would like to speak
On this case.
on that case?
I would just like to say that the owner of the house is going to be building the house next door for his son, who just recently had a baby, so he'll be owner and occupied for the house. Yes, he's a contractor, but doesn't mean he's looking to sell and flip this for, anytime soon.
That's it? Anything else you'd like to add?
And I'd like to just, I don't want to refute what they all said, but the house currently is owned and occupied by one renter at the moment. So there's that.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions or comments from the board? If not, do I have a motion?
I move that the hearing be closed, that the matter be placed on the decision calendar Everyone who signed in on the case will receive a copy of the board's decision by mail once it's rendered. Thank you, folks, and have a nice day.
Second. All in favor? Any opposed? Okay, we'll take that back. That's a lot.
Next, we have case 21725 Elmont Chowdhury Developers Incorporated, variances subdivision of lot, front width from and on street line to front setback line, construct dwelling with garage, demolish existing dwelling, parcel 1, also known as 2114 Oakwood Place, as well as case 21825 Elmont Chowdhury Developers Incorporated, variances subdivision of lot, front width from and on street line to front setback line, construct dwelling with garage, parcel 2, north side of Oakwood Place, 827.48 feet east of 239th Street.
Dominic Minerva, Minerva and D'Agostino, 107 South Central Avenue, Valley Stream, New York.
Morning.
Morning.
It's Barry Nelson, 220 Pettit Avenue, Belmore, New York, 11710.
The application before you today is for variances to permit the subdivision of the parcel and the construction of 2 new single-family dwellings. Subject premises is located at 2114 Oakwood Place in Elmont. It's known as Section 32, Block 631, and Tax Lot 146 on the Nassau County Land and Tax Map. It's located in the Residence B zone. Subject parcel is located on the north side of Oakwood Place at the curve with 240th Street. The subject parcel contains 13,028 square feet, and the proposal is to subdivide the parcel into a 6,294 square foot parcel and a 6,734 square foot parcel, conforming as to lot size. The only variances requested are for the lot width for each parcel, with 55 feet required and 27.48 feet for the westerly lot and 47.37 feet provided for the easterly lot at the street. Other than the narrowing of the parcel at the street line, the parcels are just over 40 feet wide at the front yard setback line and at the rear property line. Each dwelling is proposed to have a 1-car attached garage and parking in each driveway for 3 to 4 cars per parcel, because the parcel angles and there's a long driveway, so several cars can fit off-street. As you will hear shortly, the proposal is in keeping with the character of the area and will not be detrimental to the property owners. Mr. Nelson will address this in further detail, but I would just like to note that the Nassau County Planning Commission resolution ignored in their analysis that the subject premises is adjacent to a previously approved 4-lot subdivision with less front width than the proposal for the subject parcels, and the surrounding area, other than Oakwood Place, is developed almost entirely with 40 by 100-foot parcels. Before I call Mr. Nelson, I'd just like to note that my client will accept all of the board's standard conditions in the event that the application is granted. Yes? Which case is 217? Oh, okay. Yeah. All right, so one is 800 feet from 239th Street, so hold on, I'm just looking for the tie distance to the corner. Okay, so case 217 would be the westerly parcel.
It's indicated as parcel 1.
Yep, parcel 1 on the plot plan with the 27.48 feet. 217, yep. And then 218. Okay, at this time, I'll call Mr. Nelson to testify. And Chairman, will you, Mr. Nelson have previously been qualified as an expert witness. Will you continue his qualification?
Board, and you've testified before the board on any number of occasions. Have any of your qualifications changed since the last time you were qualified by this board?
No, sir.
Okay, then we will continue your real estate expert qualification.
Thank you. I'm going to hand in some exhibits. Initially, I have a packet of photographs that include the subject property and total of 18 that include the surrounding area, the residential area. I have some comparable
60,
sales
60,
of
60,
homes
60,
in the area as well as new construction.
these.
And then I have two sets of aerial views for the subject property. One set will include a tax maps to depict the character of the neighborhood, which I'll describe shortly. I want to hand all. Patrick, I have all of this stuff that I'd like, okay. So, as Council mentioned, it's a 12,928 square foot parcel that'll be proposed to subdivide after the removal of existing dwelling with two new one-family colonial style homes with internal garages. The parcels will each have in excess of 6,000 square feet. It's a residential B zone. The only variances sought on each parcel would be for the front width from the building line to the street line. Otherwise, the parcels would be fully conforming with new colonial style dwellings. The photographs that I took were taken by myself within the last 30 days. In my opinion, fairly and accurately represent the subject property and the surrounding area. The parcel to the immediate, or the parcels immediately to the east-southeast was a four-home subdivision that was completed in approved in 1996, and under cases 188 through 191, and that would be for
He's got the garage.
the three homes that are
That's his garage. He wants to
accessed
split
each
that
with a
piece.
20-foot width of
I'm not
lots,
sure about that.
sort of like flag lots, to the southeast. And that was on, with the Marble Company applicant, and they each had requirements for the similar variances that are sought in today's application. Front width at street line to the building line. And you would see on the radius map, each one, just to the southeast of the subject property, having approximately 20-foot width of lot, and then to the main body of the parcels. Those parcels with the flag lots are approximately 6,000 square feet in each, but require the front width and
I've been there.
from the building line to the setback. If you continue on the 240th Street, you have additional parcels, tax lot 8 with 34.01 foot frontage, and tax lot 7, 40-foot frontage. Interestingly, what I did is I submitted one set of aerial views with tax maps attached to them, and if you review the tax maps, I highlighted the predominant area is developed by 40-foot wide lots and approximately between 100 and 115-foot depths. if you took the subject property as proposed, and they're kind of skewed, but the main body of each parcel, they would be approximately 40 feet, 40.59 feet wide, and a depth before you get into the bend of approximately 135 feet on each parcel. And what I'm talking about is if you look at the subdivision line that's proposed, you'll see that 40 by 40.595 by 135, and then you got the bend to the street. That'll be the driveway area that'll accommodate at least 2 to 3 cars on each parcel, with plus the interior garage on each. So, and this is the largest parcel in the area. There are no other possible subdivision like the subject property that'll lend itself to a similar subdivision and include the total lot area required of 6,000 square feet for each parcel. The predominant area, and if you look at my area views again, will include the tax maps that will include the subject block, the block to the south, which would be section 32, block 663, and the next block, all predominantly 40-foot width lots and approximately under 6,000 square feet. In this case, the applicant is complying with the lot area required. There is a new house that's being redeveloped, or an existing house that's being redeveloped at the southwest corner of Oakwood Place and 240th Street. Otherwise, the area is predominantly Cape Cod and colonials. The original development was approximately 1940s to the early 1950s. So the area is well established. And again, there are no other parcels in this area that lends itself to a similar subdivision. Values range anywhere from, and I provided comparable sales for the board to review, both the Cape Cods, and I even identified the parcel sizes on those sales in the area. Property values generally range approximately 600, maybe a little bit lower, high 500, 590, to approximately 750, 800 for the Cape Cods and colonials that were built in the 1940s and 1950s. The new homes would sell for approximately $1,150,000. Today, the existing house would be worth approximately $625 to $650, as is. A building lot in the area is worth approximately $375,000 each, for an aggregate value of $750. New construction, so what we would be looking at is approximately a 600, if we took the higher end, $650,000 as improved, or as proposed after approved, we would have an aggregate value for between the two of $2,300,000. In my opinion, there is no detriment to property values in the area. The pattern of development is consistent with what's in the immediate area. In fact, the breakdown for the 100-foot radius would be 4 out of 7, 57.1%, or the 200-foot radius, 7 out of 15, approximately 47%. But if you included the pattern of development for the completed blocks, we are well over 60% that are over with 40-foot frontages and less than the 6,000 square feet. All municipal services are available to the subject property, including municipal sewers, public water, and utilities. In my opinion, the area character is not going to be altered or changed, except for one additional new home, two new colonials, and property values will continue to appreciate. Elmont Road is just to the east, accessed off 116th Road, where there's everyday convenience, including religious institutions and schools. Thank you.
Thank you. That concludes our direct application, unless there are any questions from the board.
We have some people here who signed in opposition. We'd like to hear from them. First one is Anthony Belinfanti. Come up, sir.
My name is Tony Belinfanti. I live on Oakwood Place, 2138. That's my first home I ever bought. My children grew up there, and I'm very concerned about the neighborhood. Indulge me, if you can, to read with me what I've written there. I'll read it, but just in case you don't understand my voice or my accent. But
What accent?
what we're concerned is the density of what's going to happen. So increased density and traffic is the first point on my presentation. The proposed change will increase residential density and will worsen traffic congestion and parking. It will pose safety concerns for children, pedestrians, and motorists. Conditions the board have recently considered when deciding whether to approve of variances: will it create danger for vehicle or pedestrian? We argue yes. Please look at page 2. If you look at page 2, there's a photograph of the house in the middle and the bottom. You can see that most of the folks who live there now, they park perpendicular to the sideway. So if I read further on, it says here, the current two-car garage and driveway, back on page 1, is set very far back on the property behind the home, and it barely satisfies the current occupants as it stands on page 2. You can see all these cars are parked perpendicular to the sidewalk. And this is a deep circle. So if you're heading towards that home, you have to come into the middle of the road not to hit them. So, another problem we have is incompatibility with the neighborhood's character. The proposed development is not in keeping with the existing character of our neighborhood, where homes are spaced according to the current zoning requirement. These proposed long, narrow homes are not in keeping with any of the homes nearby. And with all due respect to Mr. Codry's architect, these things look like shipping containers on the black and white print. Okay? Allowing this variance set a precedent for overdevelopment and crowding. Elmont is in Nassau County. It is not an urban residential neighborhood. We expect homes to meet current zoning requirement in keeping with our rich suburban charm and character. We are concerned with the environmental impact. Our area already experiences storm runoff, flooding, and high sewer capacity. Increased housing density without infrastructure upgrade will only exacerbate the problem. We are wondering about the zoning violation of a zoning intent. There's a affidavit signed about cutting down trees under the Preservation Code, Chapter 184, sworn to on June 24th, when in fact we believe that a lot of the trees were cut down long before. Okay?
Affidavit that is in our files?
Well, yes, I have if you look on page page 3.
Of your presentation?
Yeah, I think there's a copy of the
Oh, okay,
affidavit.
got it.
Okay. But let me continue. If you go to page 2, according to their composite plan, the driveway egress would be forcing cars directly onto 240th Street, which is much narrow, single, obscuring traffic, making it difficult and congested for the homeowners and residents driving through to enter Oakwood Place. Okay. Currently, they park illegally due to the lack of parking on the curb, causing much confusion, as you can see from those 2 photographs at the bottom. Having two driveways that would be forced to reverse onto 240th Street, or if they come out head first, their headlights can blind drivers and be dangerous to both pedestrian and motorists. If you look at those two pictures, current driveway, lack of parking, force current occupants to park illegally. Down below, the picture they provide, part of their photographic exhibition, demonstrate that even with their 2-car garage and long driveway setback, there is not enough parking, illegally parked cars, for 1 property, let alone 2. There are 5 commonly parked cars at this residence. This is currently a 4-bedroom house. Put 2 5-bedroom dwelling on the same lot would be irresponsible and unsustainable, putting a danger and disastrous strain on the neighborhood. We are urging you strongly to reject this application for a variance.
Sure.
Hi, my name is David White. I live at 115, 47, 240th Street, Elmont, 11003.
That's the way it used to look.
I agree with everything the last man said. I'm opposed to the variance. It's going to destroy the neighborhood. There's not even going to be a front yard anymore. It's going to be all parking lot. And yeah, I covered my front windows because all the trees that came down let a lot of sunlight into my front room. I can't keep the shades closed all the time, so I put a covering to block out a lot of the light that the trees used to block out. I don't know how many trees came down, but it seems like all of them.
Quite a few.
And I think that's about it. Everything he said, I'm in favor, you know? This isn't a good thing for the neighborhood. It's gonna be way too many people, way too many cars. And, that's all. Thanks.
Thank you. Kemson Honor. 115, 49. Where is he?
My name is Kempson. I live at 115, 49, 240 Street. Zip code 1103. So not to repeat everything that my last 2 neighbors just say, is too many people and that's going to cause too many traffic. And the same problem that my last, David was saying was I had to block my windows. I never really opened my curtain because I feel like I'm living a certain area in Queens where everybody live on top of everybody else. All the trees that were there, they were all cut down. And I'm planting new trees hopefully in the next 10 years. Hopefully it would start blooming, maybe I'll get some privacy. But as you can see, the neighborhood cannot accommodate more people. There's no parking. And most of the time for me to go into my driveway, people are blocking my driveway. It's very hard for me to get out of my driveway. We had a share circle that's not supposed to have people, it's not supposed to park there, but people park there all the time because there's no place for them to park in the neighborhood. And on top of that, they just built this monstrosity house across the street from us. We don't know how many people that's gonna live there.
Where's that?
That's across the street from where the house in question is being,
Across,
is
240th Street?
across west, the Shudry house, like, you know. At first it looked like, you know, they were add up an extension, then they knocked down one single family. It looked like something that could fit at least 6 families now. We were never told about it. And I'm noticing that the neighborhood is changing. It's changing too rapidly. And I don't want to live, I was living in Jamaica State, and I see that story before, when somebody stopped knocking single family house and they stopped building this monstrosity. After a while, the neighborhood loses its charm. And if we allow one exception, everybody's going to want the same privilege. And I mean, I have nothing against Mr. Chaudhry. I just care about, like, you know, hey, listen, I got family that I was raised on this house, and I want to stay in that neighborhood. And there's no more place for me to go. I keep moving further on the island, but yeah, it needs to stop. That's all I have.
Hi, good afternoon. My name is Athena Jean. I'm at 2132 Oakwood Place. I agree with the sentiments that have been expressed previously with my neighbors and the presentation that Tony, Mr. Belafonte presented. I just wanted to also add, in listening to the presentation, that they mentioned that there was a subdivision built in 1996. I think there's a little bit of a difference, only because with that subdivision, they accounted for parking in that subdivision. I'm looking at a picture of Google Earth. I wish I thought to bring a printout of it. There's actually, especially in front of, let's say, home 115-43 on 240th, there's 115-43 on 240th. And looking at the aerial view, there's actually like a little parking lot. And all the homes in that, the 4 homes in that subdivision, it seems like they did account for the parking. With this home at 2114 Oakwood, it's not necessarily as much about the lot size as it is about the location on the block. So because it's at the corner of 240th, where Tony explained it gets narrow, we're just concerned that if currently it's a 4-bedroom house and 5 cars can't fit, what happens when there are 2 5-bedroom homes and they're backing up and backing in? So it just seems like logistically, not the lot size per se, but the actual location of this lot would not be suitable to have 2 lots here because it's at a curve where we turn into our neighborhood. I hope that was clear.
Mr. Minerva, how many, I see the driveways proposed, and I see a single-car garage. How many cars do the driveways accommodate? Because I do see all the cars at the one house, and I don't know, is there street parking allowed there? There's some, right?
There is some, but because of the location of 214, because it's actually set on the curve, they only have enough legal parallel parking for 1 car. So they park illegally. The current residents, I'm not sure if it's Chaldrine, again, no, nothing against them. They actually park illegally perpendicular because of it, yeah.
Yes, so it's currently a single-family dwelling that's being rented. These will be owner-occupied homes. We are improving that situation because now we will have oversized driveways. So we'll have one internal garage for each lot, and we'll have oversized driveways. They're 18 feet wide by like 40 feet deep, so there'll be plenty of room, more than is usually provided for single-family residences to be parked off-street on their parcel.
And once you cut in those curb cuts, it doesn't even look like you're have any street parking in front of it.
No, you will not be able to park in the street in front of that.
Mr.
Without parking, you would be blocking the driveway.
Mr. Nelson, earlier you alluded to the four-lot subdivision. When I was there, and I was there last week, there appeared to be, is there a shared driveway agreement amongst those homes? Because it looked like there was another street adjacent to 240th Street, allowing freedom of access to all four of those homes.
It looks like they made a semicircle there, but if you look at I have provided photographs, the subdivision lines between each one comes almost down to the circle with Belgian blocks, so there's a divider, and then there's a semicircle that, I don't know if they have a shared agreement, or it's just a comfortable situation where they all park there. I don't know if that's usually, when you have this type of situation, they prohibit parking on that area, but on this one, it looks like they do park together.
Well, I saw, I was there on a Friday afternoon, I saw no cars parked in what you might call the common area.
Right.
But it looked like a street that ran adjacent to 240th Street and allowed the people in that four-lot subdivision, plenty of room to pull their cars in and out of their properties.
Yeah, yes, I just checked the decision. You're correct. The decision from 1996 referenced an easement.
Yeah. Pardon? Go right ahead.
Mr. Minerva, I have a question for you.
Sure.
Yes, sir.
What happened to all the trees on the lot? There's an affidavit in the other gentleman's papers saying that he didn't remove any trees, and then there's a satellite picture from before that showing all these trees there. What happened to the trees?
Let me consult with my client. Give me a second.
You had to see it. It looks like there's a shared driveway easement.
My client said that that was done by the previous owner, and that when he filed that affidavit, the trees were already down.
I'm just looking at the pictures, and I don't know, it seems to me that somebody cut all the trees down. I mean, they were there.
Yes.
Thank you.
One other thing. Because you bring up the trees, I believe that one of our neighbors was talking about the view. So because maybe 20 trees were taken down, there is a concern that their view would be of these two new larger dwellings. And I believe there's also a concern about, now that all of those trees are gone, if you look at the satellite image, that there will be increased noise traffic because we're right behind Elmont Road. So there's a worry about noise pollution from Elmont Road, bearing that all those trees have been removed. And I believe Tony included a picture of the Chowdhury truck in front with the trees down.
Excuse me, can you just elaborate about the trees? When were they
Sure.
taken down? You live there. You live in the neighborhood, correct?
I do. I live on Oakwood.
Okay, so when did you see the trees being taken down?
So we all saw the trees being taken down in April of that year, of 2024.
Who owned the property at that time? Do you know? Was it a
We-
prior owner, or was it this gentleman?
Oh, no, it was a new owner. It wasn't the prior owner.
Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. I certainly do. My name is Dion Mitchell. I lived at 115-45, 240th Street, Elmont, New York. I've resided there for 22 years with my family. As an educator in New York City, I look forward to coming home to a quiet, charming block. As I said, I'm sorry? All right, I'll use my teacher voice. As I said, as an educator in New York City, I look forward to coming home to my charming little block with my neighbors and my family. And I've done that for the 22 years that I've lived on my block. I'm an outdoorsy person. I go walking every single day. I enjoy just being outside. Needless to say, it broke my heart when the trees just started coming down. I came home one day from work and something was just visibly different. And the trees were all gone. And I was heartbroken. So my neighbors, I don't know my neighbors very well because they just got here and I'm looking forward to getting to know them. However, in the short space of time that they've moved on the block has changed. Noticeably, the trees, they're gone, right? Now, speaking to the proposal in terms of the subdivision that they are proposing, I want to speak to it from an educational stance because that's my area, my little niche. They are proposing a subdivision that obviously is going to house more people, more families, and I don't know where these people will be coming from, where anyone will be coming from. What I do know is that our community that we are working so hard to keep the same in terms of the values, educational values that we have, it's becoming harder to do that as more and more families are moving from New York City or wherever. Not that there is a problem with that. The difficulty that we are having, however, is that a lot of the people who are coming in are not necessarily homeowners. And when you are not a homeowner, you don't have the same vested interest in keeping up the value of the property or ensuring that the educational standards are maintained within our local schools. Now, having gone to almost every board meeting, school board meeting, and sitting on school boards and trying to make sure that our schools maintains a certain level, one of the things that my own children will say to me, it's not that our schools are not what we want them to be, but what's happening is a lot of city folks are moving in, are crossing over, and children are coming in, and there's a city influence. Now, being a city educator, someone who teach and work in the city, I know what that influence can be like. From my own kids, I've experienced that, and other folks that I'm speaking with now are experiencing that. So I'm concerned that the more of these subdivisions that are popping up into our community means that the value of education as we know it will decline. And I don't want to see that happen in Elmont. I see other school communities, such as Roosevelt, we don't want to become that. We want to maintain the standards that we have in our community. I agree with everything that has been said by our neighbors in terms of why this subdivision is not the best for our block. In terms of the question that you had regarding whether or not there was a block, because what you're speaking of, we want to call it a little cul-de-sac. That's where I live, myself. My house is located 11545 248th Street. There is a common area that we do park. I think it's, I don't know if David, I don't know if you know where Ramel lives, his number. I think that little parking area, it aligns with his property. However, we all park, and then there is a street. The street is parallel to that specific area. Right. So parking is definitely, and I do attest that in the mornings when I'm pulling out to go to work, it can be a little bit choppy and dicey, particularly for someone such as myself that's not too skilled in reversing. So I'm asking you please to deny this request, as it will not be the best thing for our little cute block. that we're trying to keep cute. Thank you.
Just going to sum up on a few items. Okay, so there was an issue raised regarding the parking. I think we've,
Oh, wait a minute, I'm sorry. Did you sign in? Your name, sir?
We thought we went through everyone. Oh, there
Oh,
you are.
you didn't mark whether you were in favor or opposed. Well, come up.
I do. My name is Leon Williams. I live at 2126 Oakwood Place, Elmont, New York 11003.
Can you speak a little?
Sure. Leon Williams, 2126 Oakwood Place, Elmont, New York 11003. I've been there for 25 years. And I agree with everything that my colleagues have said. And this is my wife, my stronger half. And everything that has been said before, I totally agree with my colleagues, my neighbors. Housing density is one of our biggest concern there, housing density. With more and more people moving into the neighborhood, the denser our neighborhood population is going to be. Increased traffic, like some of my neighbors said, definitely is an issue. It's going to be a strain on infrastructure in our community. Okay, the loss of our neighborhood character is definitely on our mind. And the trees that we're talking about, we're not talking about a few trees. We're talking about pine trees that has been there for probably over 50 years. And we're talking about maybe about 15 or 20 trees all along the line. And that was not done by the previous owner. That was done when the current owner moved into the lot. Correct. Correct. And it's not from the previous owner. That is a total blatant lie. Okay? So just like how they lied about the trees and, you know, oh, it's only going to be, you know, one family or something like that. You know, this builder, I don't have anything personal against him, but this builder comes into neighborhood, chops it up, and book, move out, go, and leave the neighborhood in pieces. And that's what we're concerned about.
From the time they cut down the trees, and from the time they lived there, they live in there, and the kids used to play right in the circle because not much people come around there who live around there, and the street at the corner, and the neighbors that live around there, they know kids play around there, so they drive carefully to come around because kids always play there. From the time they come there, and they park in the particular parking, so it's so narrow, then cars on the other side, and they park that way. It's very difficult. And then we have a house building up right in front of us, a huge humongous, a real big house. So then we can't get no parking because the construction is going on right now. So we have to keep away from that side, from the street to park, and everybody have to be on one side. So it's very difficult. I have nothing against our neighbor. I glad that he come, he want to develop himself, but the way how he doing it, and we don't want that in our neighborhood.
No.
Yes. Adrian Boston, 2133 Oakwood Place. So I'm going to make mine brief. The way that curve is situated, you have to go that way to turn left from 240 onto Oakwood. How they're presently parked, most of the time you have to either make and stop and kind of go 5 miles in order to make that left. Because you can't see what's coming on Oakwood, coming the opposite way. Because if there's cars parked on both sides, you can't see. Most of the times, like in the daytime, if you can't see a headlight, sometimes you have to honk a little because of the way the curve is situated. And how they're presently parked too now is even worse. Because now, instead of you having to make a sharp left, which you can't make onto Oakwood, you have to go to the right. But now if you got to go to the right, their cars is facing the street. So now it's in the street. So there's many times where you have to come around, there's a car coming that way, and someone has to back up or back up so one car can go. Because of how it is, you can't really make a turn with 2 cars coming. So, and as for the trees were cut down in April because the same guys that cut their tree down, I asked them right when they were finished to come and cut down 2 of my trees. So it was gone in April. Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Fiano Boston. I live at 2133 Oakwood Place. I've been living there since 2013 as a young couple, my husband and I. We bought the home there to raise our kids in a nice, quiet neighborhood. And over the years, it has been changing gradually. I do support development in whatever neighborhood, but the way that it's been going about, I think it's not good for my kids or the kids of the neighborhood. Safety. My kids were used to riding around the block, skating around the block. It's not safe anymore. It will change the characteristic of the neighborhood, and I prefer the safety of my children over anything else. Thank you.
My name is Patricia Cooper. I live 11551 240th Street, Elmont, New York, 11003. I agree with everything that they're saying. I walk my dog every day, and the traffic is terrible. even in the morning. Just like you said, you gotta be careful going around. Two cars almost hit me in the last 2 weeks. About 11551, 47, I think is the next one. I'm the house before the sub.
She's on lot
I'm the
8.
one. I'm the one
Tax
next door
lot
to the
8.
subdivision.
Yes, because
Oh, I was there before that. Even those houses was built. I've been there over 35 years. So the quality of life have, it's really changing. It's really changed. I don't have anything against them, building, but why would you build a house where you have one already? It's congested, very congested. And I don't know, I think they should really think it over. And the trees was sad to see the trees come down as well. But
Okay, just to sum up, address a few of the comments. We had addressed in the interim the parking. They'll have more than sufficient parking for each home, more than is typical for a single-family dwelling off-street. The driveway for the adjacent subdivision, you have 3 homes sharing 45 feet, so it's about 15 feet per house. Here we'll have 2 homes with 36 feet, about 18 feet per home, so the access in and out should be more than sufficient. On the drainage, these are going to be new homes, so they're going to have to comply with the current town codes for maintaining the stormwater on site. I would note that a few of the objectors were on the 15-foot wide lots, and the objections were very general objections about the quality of life, and no reference or connection to how these 2 homes are going to impact them. And Mr. Nelson testified that under the statutory criteria, they would meet that test for the granting of the requested area variances. And again, we're just asking for front with variances. Everything else is conforming as to the code. One other thing I did want to mention, on our plot plan, if the board considers granting the application, an additional condition to flip plot 2 side yards so that the 10-foot side yard is to the neighboring house, and the 5-foot side yard is to the other proposed house, and we plant a 6-foot row of Leland cypress across that property line for screening. Plot 2.
the easterly.
Sorry. The easterly parcel, we have 10 feet and 5/6. We'd switch those, and off as a condition, planting of 6-foot Leland cypress along the entire property line from the curve to the rear. Yes, correct. And we request your favorable consideration.
I move that the hearing be closed, that the matter be placed on the decision calendar. Each of you who have signed in will receive a copy of the board's decision in the mail once it's made. Thank you all for coming and participating, as will you, Mr. Minerva and Mr. Nelson.
Second.
Thank you. Aye.
Stephanie, you okay?
She needs a break.
The court reporter has to change the paper. Consequently, we'll have a 10-minute break. we're very informal here.
So I can sit in my underwear like a guy on CNN?
I would, I would,
Remember that guy on CNN at home?
I would like to wear jeans and sneakers. And no tie. What do we have? All right. Come on. What? Average one. 75. She's looking at she's right into the core. All right, folks. I haven't used this.
Next, we'll be calling case 131125 near Westbury, Beechwood 725 Merrick LLC. Special exception for proposed outdoor dining and permission to park in front yard setback, proposed restaurant in existing building, also known as 725 Merrick Avenue.
Where is this? Oh, I heard this restaurant is really super good. I heard the restaurant's really good. The restaurant is really a good restaurant. This Farm Italy, they have one in Huntington or Northport, supposedly excellent.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. I am Paulina Gianpietro with the offices of Richard W. Rosenberg, PC, located at 200 Robbins Lane, Suite D1, Jericho, New York, 11753.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. I'm the attorney for the applicant, Beechwood 725 Merrick LLC. The subject premises is located at 725 Merrick Avenue, Westbury, New York 11590, and is identified as Section 44, Block 78, Lot 86 on the Nassau County Tax Map. The subject premises is split zoned with Business X District on the portion of the property fronting Merrick Avenue, and that's about 0.9 acres. And then the rear portion of the property is zoned Industrial Y District, which is about 0.3 acres. The existing building is located wholly within the Business X District, and current renovations are taking place on an existing restaurant building, which most recently operated as Houlihan's Restaurant, which you might be aware of.
Which restaurant?
Houlihan's. It was
Oh,
Houlihan's
Houlihan's.
previously.
Okay.
And then prior to that, it was Fuddruckers, I believe.
Fuddruckers. Fuddruckers.
The current premises will continue to operate as a restaurant, of which the operator currently holds a lease for the premises is the Farm Italy Westbury LLC. This is a high-end Italian restaurant, and this will be their second Farm Italy location, which is located, the first one is located in downtown Huntington.
How many are there total?
I believe it's only two.
Second.
This will be the second one. The applicant is respectfully requesting a special exception under Article 27, Section 272C10 for proposed outdoor dining and a special permit under Article 27, Section 272F3 for permission to park automobiles in the minimum area required for the front yard setback. First, I'd like to discuss the parking in the front yard setback, and then I'll move on to the proposed outdoor dining. The layout of the parking area as shown on the site plan, which we have a visual up here, if you don't have a copy, which was submitted with the application, is not changing from the previous occupant. My client purchased the property, and it existed as it does today. Such as the parking spaces were located within the front yard setback is an existing condition. My client's not asking to relocate any parking or put parking into the front yard setback, it's just merely asking it to keep it where it is.
Wait, was the parking always there under the prior?
When we bought the property, it was that way.
And there was no variance for it previously?
I looked through, did some foils, looked through files, and I could not find anything.
Mr. Mueller, nothing?
For the record,
Do you have
Wayne
something to
Mueller,
say?
R&M
Mr.
Engineering.
Mueller?
Office is at 50 Elm Street, Huntington,
Okay.
New York.
Before you continue, did you have something that you wanted to add? You had previous information?
Yeah, I just wanted to add, we didn't have a record of the parking in the front yard setback, so at one time, when they restriped the lot, the parking was relocated to that location.
Thank you.
Therefore, that's why
Okay.
we added it to the file.
I appreciate that.
Can we
Thank you.
just go through the parking quickly in terms of how many are required, how many you have that don't include front yard set, how many allowables you have, not including those four, whatever others are not allowable without relief?
So, in total, we needed 98 stalls in total. There's total 71 stalls on the property. That is including the ones that exist in the front yard, which are 11. There is a shared parking easement with the property to the south, which my client is a common ownership with that property as well. And there was an interconnecting roadway agreement from many years back that permitted credit for the loop road. So we do have an additional 56 credit stalls that we are able to take from that. So we have a total parking, provided parking of 127.
Why would we then want to approve spots 4 or 11, whichever it is, in the front yard if you can meet your requirement without?
They're already existing, and it's only about 8 feet into the front yard, and it makes just gives more options for parking.
They're
Okay,
not
so-
legally recognized by the town, those parking spaces in the front yard, correct?
And yeah, until we get them approved.
Okay, now which spots are we, this design has got a lot going on here. So is it the ones on Merrick Avenue?
Correct, yes.
So there's a couple of disabled, is that 4 disabled spots?
It's not those, it's gonna be the ones across Merrick Avenue.
Right, but that's the right place, right, over there?
Yes, yeah.
Okay, so I'm trying to see where they're even marked or numbered. It's hard to identify them. You have that grass, right?
Right, so there's grass, if you want me to show a point on the.
Hold on, I found a bigger one.
They're dashed lines.
So there's 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Is that one?
Yep.
11? Is it 11 of them across
Yes.
there? And the only thing, so those 11 spots are before us for front yard?
Yes, just those 11.
that requirement of the 98?
98.
98.
That includes the increase from outdoor dining if it's approved, right?
Yes, it includes outdoor dining. Yep.
And is the outdoor dining proposed on that proposed enclosed patio 1,248 square feet?
Yes. Well, so there's the enclosed patio, and then there's the two patios on the adjacent, on the west and the east side.
On the
That-
what?
The west and the east side of that enclosed patio.
Oh, that brick-covered area?
Yes, correct. That's open air. It's not a covered,
But that's gonna have,
but that will have 24 seats on each side.
and how many, okay, so 24 seats?
Correct.
So is that what, 6 tables of 4, or
Not sure. Let me see
or
if I have-
generally?
Probably, yeah. I mean, right, right. Yes, and then the covered patio will have an additional, I think it's 58.
58?
So it'll be a total of 106 outdoor.
Okay.
Did I say 58? It's 58 seats uncovered, and then 48 on the uncovered, 24 and 24.
Oh, so the restaurant itself is the 57 spots with 171 seats, 20 employees, and then 106 outdoor dining. That's how
Correct.
you got to it, okay. And how close is the 56 spots for how convenient is it to use those and go here?
So they're credit spots for the interconnecting roadway, due to the interconnecting roadway agreement.
Hold on, let me find the radius map so I can see where you're even talking about. I hope, yes. And the owner of this, the owner and/or operator is partial owner of this. It's not a right that can be taken away.
Right, the owner of the property at 725 Merrick is similar ownership of the property to the south, and actually the property to the north. So
Okay,
695 Merrick is the Selby Hotel, and my client is also owner of that.
So we're looking at where the Houlihan's used to be.
Correct.
On the radius map. Now, which of these lots is the one that has the 56 spots that are shared?
So the southerly lot, which is lot,
Can't tell.
54.
Okay. We have it right here. Well, wait a second, let's ask her. Hold on, you want to approach too?
Sure. Avenue. So I just want to add for the record, we submitted a Google Earth aerial to show the loop road and the connecting areas. So the property surrounding the premises, which we just talked about, was the apartment hotel to the south, which is the Selby, the auto service and parts store to the west, and a vacant lot which was formerly Buffalo Wild Wings to the north. And to the east is Merrick Avenue. Across Merrick Avenue is a county park, Eisenhower Park. As we said, the conditions of the parking on the subject site are not changing. They've existed previously with a larger capacity restaurant operating on site. So granting of the special exception will not negatively affect or prevent orderly or reasonable use of the adjacent properties or the properties in the adjacent use districts. The special exception will not prevent orderly or reasonable use of permitted or legally established uses in the district or in the adjacent use district, as it's merely parking slightly in the front yard setback. The parking is permitted in the front yard of a parcel, but the parking here is just merely 8 feet closer than the code would generally allow, which would be the 20-foot. Therefore, this special exception will not prevent or impact any reasonable and legal use of adjacent properties and districts. Safety, health, and welfare of the patrons of the restaurant and the persons traveling around the site will not be compromised or jeopardized by approving the special exception of the parking in the front yard setback as its current configuration. And this special exception will be in harmony with and promote the general purpose of the intent of the ordinance to promote good planning practices. And one other thing I would like to note is that there are 8 feet between the property line and Merrick Avenue, so there is 20 foot back from the road, from the actual where Merrick Avenue is, to where the parking starts. Yeah, so that, well, between the grass and then there's a sidewalk, I believe, for along Merrick Avenue. So that sidewalk is about 8 feet, and the grass area between the property line and where the parking spaces start is 12 feet. So you have about 20 feet, which is what the code. Yeah. And then again, I would just like to note and put in the record that Farm Italy restaurant will offer valet parking only. Yes.
Expect to open.
I believe they're aiming to open this summer, early summer. Yeah, as soon as possible.
What's it called again?
The Farm Italy.
The Farm Italy.
Any other questions on the parking?
Time we've qualified you as an expert.
They have not.
Okay, then you are free to proceed and testify as an expert for parking and traffic.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
We had previously prepared a letter regarding the proposal before the board this afternoon, dated April 7th, 2025. Submitted additional copies today at the public hearing. A lot of what's in my report has already been covered by the board in discussions with Paulina, but I'd just like to highlight a couple of things. One, this property, to the best of my knowledge, has been a restaurant for a long time. First, it was Fuddruckers, which was like some kind of weird burger spot where you picked your burger in the window, and it was, for a while, it was very popular. And then it went to be Houlihan's after that. But one of the most important things was that at the time of the approval of both Fuddruckers and Houlihan's, there were a total of 303 total seats on the property. As part of the proposal that's before the board this afternoon, The proposal is to provide 277 seats, so there'll be a reduction in 26 seats. So in theory, the activity will be a lot less. But
Somewhat less.
in regard to that, the Farm Italy is more of a high-end type Italian restaurant. There's one in Huntington Village, just located north of Main Street on Girard Street. And it's a radically different concept than, say, Houlihan's or Fuddruckers. They won't be turning over the tables as much, so the activity would be less. The previous restaurants that were on the property essentially had the same configuration in both parking and the number of stalls. And again, based on the seating reduction, we would anticipate that the level of activity would be less. And as indicated by Paulina, there's a proposed cross-access between the Selby property to the south and the proposed Farm Italy to the north to allow vehicles to circulate between two properties and utilize some of the vacant spaces that occur on the Selby property during the restaurant peak times. In addition, there's an additional parking area that's located to the west of the Selby, which, based on my experience, is significantly underutilized. That will also be utilized for the valet activity. The valet parking people will not have to travel onto Merrick Road in order to access those other different areas. That would be due to the cross connection of the properties and the fact that this property also has connection to the Firestone property, which is located to west of the subject, and they'll utilize the loop road to travel in and around between the properties and not have to travel onto Merrick Avenue and create any kind of undue traffic congestion. So therefore, based on the analysis that we prepared, which was previously submitted and submitted here today, it is my professional opinion that by granting the application that's before the board this afternoon, there'll be no significant impacts to traffic conditions in and around the subject property, and that the parking provided on the property in combination with those smaller areas, as indicated by Paulina, will be sufficient to accommodate the demand.
You? Any questions of Mr. Muller? Okay.
One other note I would like to add about the lesser impact of traffic around in the area is that we anticipate that the Farm Italy will be an amenity for the apartment hotel for the Selby next door, and most of those people are not going to be driving across. They'll walk, so I think that'll reduce some traffic as well.
Just for my own edification, define a high-end Italian restaurant. What is different about a high-end Italian restaurant? No pizza?
I do have the owner here, one of the owners here. I can have him speak to that if you would like.
Just briefly. Oh, okay.
My name is John Rieger. I'm one of the owners of Farm Italy.
Okay.
My partner, who does most of the cuisine, would be much more eloquent. On the right side of the ring, he's the left. But we would say that our cuisine is different in Fuddruckers and or Houlihan's in that it's not fast casual at all. It's more fine dining, so therefore your turnovers of your tables and is not as quick. So that's what we're talking about in terms of frequency of visits.
Hours of operation?
Sorry?
Hours of operation?
Oh, hours of operation, generally 12 o'clock till 10. We're pretty much emptied out by 10 o'clock.
7 days a week?
Yes.
Yeah.
Right now we're closed on Monday in our other unit, but we would expect to gradually
Right,
get into 7.
Okay, thank you.
Are the outdoor seats going to be year-round? They're not, I suppose.
No.
They'll be seasonal.
So that parking need isn't going to even be present all the time?
Correct.
Any other questions from the board? If not, do I have a motion?
Are you finished with the
Do
case?
you want me to go through the, what I had prepared for the outdoor dining, or?
Go right ahead.
I'll make this brief. I think most of everything that I've I have prepared is what we've discussed already, so I'll just add a few things. As we said, the indoor seating is 171 seats proposed. The outdoor would be the 106 total, with the 58 covered and the 48 uncovered. There will also be landscaping of bushes and trees surrounding the patio areas, with grassy lawn areas between the patio and the parking, so that'll give a nice buffer between the parking areas. The outdoor dining is placed on the north side of the building, which borders the property that it's now vacant, which was the former Buffalo Wild Wings restaurant. We don't believe that granting this special exception will negatively affect or prevent orderly or unreasonable use of the adjacent properties and the adjacent use districts, as the busiest times of this restaurant and the outdoor dining will be the evenings and weekends, when the offices and the retail shops surrounding the properties may be winding down their businesses or closed at that time. Very good. So we respectfully request that these two special exceptions get approved. Thank you.
Well done, thank you. Mrs. D'Amato may have a question.
No, I have a question for you late after.
Okay. Thank you. Any other questions from the board? If not, do I have a motion?
Move that the hearing be closed. Matter be placed on the decision calendar. Everyone who signed in on the case will receive a copy of the board's decision by mail once it's rendered. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Thank you.
Is she from a law firm? Is she the woman from a law? Oh, okay. Yeah, she did a decent job.
Next, we're calling case 11525, Oceanside, Loma Holding Corporation, also known as Mill Bay Golf Course. Install safety net on 20-foot and 40-foot high poles on a portion of Skillman Avenue, Joaquina Avenue, and Alls Point Creek in conjunction with existing golf course, also known as 3600 Skillman Avenue.
Good afternoon, Ron Wright, 3600 Skillman Avenue, Oceanside, New York, 11572.
Good afternoon, Chairman Regano, members of the board. My name is Michael Caruso from the law firm of Cuddy and Fader, 445 Hamilton Avenue, White Plains, New York, 10601, for the applicant property owner. Good afternoon, everyone. All right, I will try to make this short and sweet. I know you've been here a long time today, and the last thing you want to hear from is another lawyer. So let me begin with just a little bit of brief background on my client. Golf Club in Middle Bay has been operating on this site originally since 1931, with a significant redesign in 1955. Originally, it was a private facility for over 5 decades, 18-hole par 72 course now, over 6,000 yards. It's evolved. It is still privately held, open to the public, and in response to the increasing demands that have been placed on the facility by, among other things, increases in technology in the game of golf, we now have an application before you that is in response to, if you will, a little bit how the game has changed, the demands that are placed on the facility by the golfers, and relatively flat terrain of the golf course, and being bounded on all sides by homes, which makes it extremely difficult to do much, if anything, with the physical layout of the golf course. So as you'll hear in a moment, I'll take you through the statutory analysis under Town Law 267B3, which is your 5-factor balancing test for an area variance. But based on the issues and the facts that we're going to present to you, we're respectfully requesting an area variance for height with respect to fencing, as it applies to 3 discrete areas on the property. That'll be along Skillman Avenue, Waukena Avenue, and Links East Drive. Not along all of them, and certainly not bounding the entirety of the golf course property as well. We're primarily seeking this relief not because it's an imperative of the golf club to put up nets. In fact, a lot of our patrons and even the people who use the facilities would probably not like to see nets. But this is in response to a real safety concern that we think needs to be addressed, and that's why we're here. We are, and I like to think the gentleman sitting next to me does more of this advocacy, obviously, than I do. We like to think that we're good neighbors. That's why we're here. I'm sure there's a lot of people in the room that want to speak out and speak in support, some against. But the reason we're here is to continue to be good neighbors, as we've been for upwards of 70 years, even more, to continue to operate, a real good champion caliber golf course at a reasonable level that is respectful to all. So, ladies and gentlemen, just in brief, we're looking for 480 linear feet along Skillman Avenue for netting that will be approximately 40 feet tall. Along Waukena, 150 linear feet, 20 feet tall. And along Links Drive East, 360 linear feet up to 40 feet tall. The same quality and construction of netting. As to your 5 factors, whether, number 1, will this change and produce an undesirable change in the character of the neighborhood or be a detriment to properties, we respectfully submit that this protective netting is customary and incidental to golf facilities around the world, not just here, whether in close proximity, and in our case, within a residential zoning district. These are things that have evolved, that have become necessities and are part of the neighborhood. We've tried to make this as de minimis as possible. As you'll see in the plans in front of you and in Exhibit F to our April 11th supplement, you'll see that obviously the netting is not going to extend the full length of any of these roadways. We've tried to keep it in areas that Mr. Wright will describe are frequent encounter areas with golf balls potentially exiting the holes. So, this neighborhood, again, the character of it is defined by the golf course. Almost every road around it is golf drive, bunker drive, fairway road, turf road. So we're trying to give a maximum safety benefit with some transparent netting and trying to balance that out with the concerns of the neighborhood. So on the second point, whether this can be achieved feasibly with another alternative means other than these poles with with netting on them, the benefit is to secure errant shots and avoid golf balls going through windows, cars, hitting people. There is really, unfortunately, no better way to do this. Trees, as you might hear, trees are not fully effective. Trees depend on maturity, spacing, growth, success of the growth. So in this instance, to use less linear feet with the devices we're proposing is really the best alternative and the most thoughtful one, we think, under the circumstances. Number 3, on substantiality, whether this is a substantial variance. Obviously, arithmetic here is not on our side, but substantiality, as you know, is more than just a percent deviation. So as you know, your 4-foot height requirement and your 6-foot height requirement, we're well past that. But the case law that we've put in our submissions, and obviously your board is well aware, this is a totality analysis. Will the surrounding area benefit from this? Is it substantial in view of the whole of the circumstances of all the roads? We submit it is not. We've tried to keep it very tightly tailored to the areas that we think will have the maximum number of golf balls exiting the course. So as the substantiality, we think this is creating a benefit to the neighborhood, and we would say that this is not substantial, despite the numerical significance of the height variance required. So whether it will have an adverse impact, number 4 in your analysis, this is not going to increase the footprint of the golf course. This is not going to drive more golfers to the facility. It will not create a more intense use. In fact, it will reduce the intensity felt by the neighboring property owners in these very 3 specific areas. I would note for the board, it's in our submission as well, that installation of fencing under SECRA is a type 2 action categorically, which is presumed not to have an adverse environmental impact. We think that this fencing comfortably falls within that type 2 categorization. And finally, members, whether this is a self-created difficulty under 267B3, we submit it is not. We haven't changed any layout in the course. We haven't made improvements to its playability. We haven't done anything to the layout materially. We haven't made any improvements that require this. Instead, we've just opened our ears, talked to our neighbors, and we've discovered that this is a problem created by, the proximity of the homes that are in the area, and the technology that can carry golf balls a little farther these days. So members of the board, in that respect, it is not self-created. And this serves a distinct purpose, not to keep people off the golf course, but to keep our business within it. So members, I will turn it over to Ron Wright, who I know our head golf professional, who would like to add a little bit more detail from his experience and expertise, and we respectfully request that you grant the application.
Good afternoon. Reason for me being here is to give you what I feel is some vital information in your decision making. First of all, my history with the club is I've been at Middle Bay for 25 years, so I have seen the club in its heyday as a private club, as well as the transformation into the semi-private umbrella in which we are under now. I have seen membership, quality of golf, where I would guess that some of the property owners and neighbors in question here looking for the fencing and would suggest strongly that, hey, when it was a private club, the golfers are better. Looking at the board, I know a few of you know that's not actually the case. As far as the demographic of golfer, and the amount of golf played, Middle Bay Country Club in its heyday did approximately 21,000 private member rounds and about 10 to 12 golf outing rounds that they sold independently. Currently today, we do between 27 and 30,000 rounds. So there is not a huge uptick in the amount of play. There's only so much good weather, so much daylight, so much golf, and especially even with some of the town ordinances and codes that we don't tee off at 5:45 in the morning like Bethpage does. On another note, we will talk about the idea of trying to have the golfer take ownership and responsibility on our GPS units on the golf course. On these specific holes in question, in these areas, on the GPS screen, when you pull up, it says, please be respectable neighbor. Please understand it's the golfer's responsibility if a ball is an errant tee shot. I have been in front of Judge Engel and a couple of others in small claims court on several different occasions. Currently, I'm 4-0. With this in mind, I'm not hitting the ball, the club's not hitting the ball. My ownership group has been more than neighborly, even under the advice of several attorneys and counsel, that it may cause willfulness by paying for somebody's windshield or paying for somebody's siding on their house. We have done this aimlessly in the spirit of being a good neighbor. As far as the PGA, the Met PGA, the Long Island Golf Association, as Mike stated before, there is no ground for us to alter the golf course. The golf course and its integrity as a golf course needs to stay as is. We don't have room, we're surrounded by water and residential areas to move a hole or change a greens complex or lengthen a hole or relocate it. These are all things that got us to this position where, you know, my job there is to protect the club, protect the facility, protect the cash register, but I also was an Oceanside resident and know many of the neighbors, and we are trying to do what's right in terms of safety for the community. Nothing at the club has changed in terms of the golf course. Some of the neighbors, yes, houses are sold and, you know, purchased every day, all day around the golf course. The only thing that's really changed on our side is instead of using student exchange students from other countries, I employ over 600 local high school and college kids every year at Middle Bay, trying to keep the best parcel of property in Oceanside afloat as a golf course. I hope that that was helpful in some sort of way, but again, I want to thank you for your time in hearing us out.
I realize I may have jumped over one small issue that I just wanted to bring to the board's attention. You do have a packet that we filed with the board yesterday that does have some specifics on the netting manufacturer. These are nets that can be taken down seasonally, just so the board's aware. These are not permanent fixtures, and that's another mitigating factor we'd submit to the board. So,
Mr. Wright, how are you? Question. So you said that when it was a private club, it was 21,000 rounds, now it's about 30,000 rounds, roughly?
The private club did 21,000 membership rounds, and then on Mondays when the club was closed, they did approximately 8,000 to 10,000 rounds additional on top of the 21 in non-member rounds. So it's very similar. I mean, if it's within 3 to 5% difference in terms of golf, the only significant uptick we've ever had was COVID. You could only go to Costco or the golf course when COVID came, so we were pretty busy.
So, and the other question I have is on the two holes that you're talking about that you want to put the netting up. The one that's, what is it, the 17th hole that you're talking about, that's on, on Stillman? Why couldn't you move the tee box over to the right more? It's right up against the fence. That would prevent a lot of the balls from going over the fence right there.
So moving the tee box over to the right would actually, as a golf professional, I could tell you statistically about 90% of golfers, new and old, slice the ball. So moving the tee box over to the left side of the right side of the golf course, keeping it away from the fence, would actually cause more people to aim left and let that ball curve around to the fairway. On another note, it runs parallel to the 14th hole, and it just demographically, in terms of proximity of tee box, hole location, green location, there's just not enough room.
so for anybody looking, that's here on Exhibit F. 17 is where my finger is, and then 14 is towards the interior of the property. So as Member Plummer had just mentioned, you know, that would put these holes in closer proximity or put the golfers closer to the boundary and increasing the risk for.
If I may.
I'm not a golf pro, but it just seems common sense if you moved it over to the right that it would cut the balls going over the fence in half. That's in my opinion.
If I may.
Any other question? I have one other question, Mr. Wright, and then you could. Do you know that the netting that, I belong to Seawayn, you know the netting that they have up there? It's very big poles and obtrusive, and the court ordered us to put it up. And it's a horrible eyesight on Seawayn Drive. And, you know, what is your netting going to look like? It is going to be something similar to that?
Knowing the netting that you're talking about on Seawayn, I am pretty versed in different types, but they don't deviate much. So it's going to be something, if not exact, something very similar to that. But if you would allow me to, on another note pertaining to the movement of the tee box, the 16th green is adjacent to the 17th tee box. So there's minimal area to move that tee box to the right. Our green superintendent has been instructed to remove tree lines down the right side of the hole and fairway. giving people ample space to move down the right side of the fairway, keeping the ball away from the fence line. Can't speak for every golfer, but and their ability, but you know, we're at a situation where it's player dependent.
But in my opinion, what it would do, I disagree. I think what it'll do is if you'd have to shorten the hole by 50, 60 yards. I'm not talking about having it adjacent to the green. I'm talking about moving it up, making it a shorter par 4. So it's just another alternative to putting an obtrusive fence up, you know, that's all.
In response to that question, and no means to be disrespectful, Mr. Plumer, you're moving the problem further down the block. If you move it up 50 yards, the current zone in which is questioned, I'll use 226 Skillman Avenue as a reference point in terms of housing. So it might just be 210 Skillman Avenue for the next issue, and we'd be back here all over again.
Simple geometry, so if you have it all the way over to the right instead of against the fence where it is, I think it's sort of against the fence on the left now, right?
It is.
Yeah, so to me, it would eliminate a lot of that. But maybe you're the pro. I'm just, in my mind, how I'm thinking. That's all.
So in the understanding that have played the course several times and you're very aware of the locations of the tee boxes and greens, there's about 12 yards to the right that you could move that tee complex over. And if you did move that tee box up a little further, like I said, you'd be putting the tee box close to the fence is actually advantageous because it causes people to aim away from the fence. Putting the tee box to the right gives them more angle to aim more left, and that creates the problem.
May I just ask, I'm curious because I'm looking at a lot of the people who sign in, and for the most part, they're against putting up these nets. Now, I realize we've heard your reason for wanting to. What precipitated this? Were there people whose house got hit too much? Were there just people who complained? I mean, what brought this on?
This really became a safety issue for us, and it was precipitated by certain households that had articulated their concerns quite clearly to my office. And in response to that, we had many discussions about how best to mitigate. Could we berm it? Could we put trees? Could we reorient the holes? Some of which might have involved PGA approval, yes or no, I don't know.
Right.
But we had a lot of discussions, and it really drove out of safety concerns for the households that.
Usually if you buy your house on a golf course, that's kind of, going to have to figure out, whatever solution you want, your own netting, you want plexiglass window, whatever it is, put a tree up. So I used to play golf at this course a long time ago, and I'm just surprised. It's been there, like you said, forever. All of a sudden, nothing's really changed, and now people who live there, a couple people, it seems like, want these nets up where it's a significant variance, in our opinion, or my opinion, I can only speak for myself, and a lot of people don't want that because it's been this way for a long time. So I was just curious what led to this, given that it has been there forever. And
yeah, that really was the crucible, was outreach from neighbors, and that precipitated in the application. As I indicated, of course, my client would not, our preference is not to put up nets. Aesthetically, it's not the number one choice for us, but to balance the safety concerns, the fact that they can be taken down, replaced, repaired, it does make it the most sensible option. And in terms of the height, there could be higher nets, and the height of golf shots varies per player and per, for difficulty of shot. But in this case, we really tried to go with the smallest, lowest, least linear feet possible to try to capture what is spraying off the course. So it's not perfect, and we agree it has substantiality if you just look at the arithmetic. But in total, if you look at the area, the perimeter of the facility, and what we're covering, I think it's relatively insignificant compared to the perimeter and the total linear feet, and the amount of density around the course. You know, we don't have any issues with turf drive. We're not putting netting anywhere else. You'll see along the western side of the course, along hole number 7, there's no issues there because we have plenty of room on that hole. There's a short par 3 on hole number 6. So there are things that we can work with, and there's a lot that is not impacted by this, thankfully.
I just realized 10, 11, and 12 aren't on our map, I guess.
That's waterfront. That's out on the back.
Right. I know I can never get on that green in 10. Because of that wind.
No, it's very windy.
If I may also just add something to what Mr. Caruso mentioned about the height of the netting. There's no foolproof amount. We're going by a recommendation of one of the netting companies as a whole. Golf shots vary on Joaquina. The shots vary anywhere from 20 to 35 feet high. I believe we put a proposal in for 20 to 24 feet. On Skillman, we're looking at a 40-foot net coming off the tee based on club head speed, player ability, youth, age, flexibility. That ball could travel anywhere from 40 to 85 feet in the air. So I just wanted to bring to the attention that this is not a 150% foolproof remedy. It's what we put together as thinking it's the best for the safety of our neighbors.
Yep, we tried to do the best balance we could here to be sensible.
Excuse me, Mr. Wright, you know, I played on your course. It's a beautiful course. I'm a hacker. I'm not a golfer like Mr. Pluma is. He's a pro. But I have played over at Lido, and they have a similar situation right adjacent to the school. And I played there before the nets and after the nets. And I got to tell you, the Nets made a very, very positive, you know, development there. It really was, because there were so many balls breaking the, you know, car windows, almost hitting people, and I just thought it's a smart move. That's from my own personal experience.
And that absolutely was the case with Lido, understanding that it runs next to, I think if I'm not mistaken, it's the middle school.
Yeah.
So you have young children in the playground and whatnot. Those nets, I think, are 60 to 70 feet in height.
Yeah, huge.
But they're also not across the street from a residential area who probably doesn't want their neighborhood to look like Attica when they walk out their front lawn.
True. That's very true. That's a good point. That's a good point. Thank you.
I have a question. What made you decide this? How many incidences have you had?
I mean, Mr. Wright can speak to that much better than I can, but we really had one significant outreach that had strong overtures that prompted us to consider a more permanent solution to this issue, and that was in 2023. So I don't think it would be proper for me to call out those individuals.
No,
and
no,
I won't.
I'm not asking that. I'm
no,
just
I
saying,
know.
how many, you know,
I think it's safe to say that, you know, the golf balls leaving the facility, you know, Ron, you can't estimate a day because the reporting it's self-reported by golfers. That's what you hope. I think we all know that a lot of golfers don't report those shots that spray off. But, you know, that happens. I'm sure that there are balls that leave daily. I couldn't quantify it, though.
In my recording of 2024, on the Joaquina side of the golf course, there were 6. 6 balls that were reported to us, whether it be damage, window, car windshield, etc. I will say this on behalf of those neighbors. They're wonderful people, very respectful, and very much appreciative as to us acting on it as the ownership has. Skillman's side, it's a little different of a demographic because people are using the driver, which is in fact the toughest club to handle in the golf bag. If I'm not mistaken, it was 23 and 29. I think the Skillman side was 29 reports the entire season.
These are just reports of a ball going out of the course and hitting something.
A window and as far as on the Links Drive side, which I don't want to say I discount it, but you bought a house on Links Drive, fairway, bunker, turf. I mean, I think you knew where you are. 18.
So just, if you would mind, I'm not asking you to give us the name of the main, the person who was strongly in favor of dealing with the situation in this way or some other way. Can you, just because we're analyzing the 3 different nets, can you tell me which netting,
Skillman.
Here's more houses.
Mr. Wright, so you said that there was basically 30,000 rounds. So
Correct.
Out of 30,000 rounds, which is 18 holes each, I assume, right?
Yes,
There were less than 100 incidents for the whole season?
reported to us, that's
So,
correct.
so don't you think putting up a net is a little overkill?
There are going to be, we've spoken to members who are here today who may show you photos of boxes of golf balls that they've collected, and to do justice to this properly, we can't assume that members, that golfers should be reporting at a certain percentage. And in speaking with Ron, and I've played golf most of my life as well as younger times, I know that people don't report. It's very common. So that number, I don't think there's any correlation you can make, because self-reporting is not reliable.
I'll give you an like, my mother lives in the flight path at Kennedy Airport in Valley Stream. She bought a house, and the planes come 1,000 feet over her head.
Yeah.
But that's where she bought the house. If you buy a house on a golf course, you have to expect occasionally you're going to have a ball going over the fence.
Absolutely, Mr. Plumer. And coming to a nuisance is a body of law that is challenging, right? Racetracks, airports, golf courses, they all have these issues. But we're coming to you, I think, a little bit forward thinking. This isn't a code enforcement issue. It hasn't gotten to the point where the town must take action. We're not reacting to this. We're trying to get ahead of this, stay ahead of it, and continue to be a good neighbor. So again, this is not number 1 on our list, believe me, but we have to be here because there's real safety issues. There's real people being, that are telling us they're being impacted. We're believing them, and that's why we're here.
can I just ask, again, I'm not asking people's names or anything like that. So the primary issue raised by someone, one or more people, was the Skillman. Then you found 2 other areas that are also proposing. I'm trying to deal with them individually.
Right.
Was this just because, how did it come about to pick these other 2 areas?
Well, those are other areas where we've had reported flyaways that have either been collisions or people have reported them, or these are areas of concern, right? There's a good reason for it, because we've gotten reports. Ron has responded to them. The pro shop staff has, ownership and management. So these are obviously not random areas. These are the most critical areas where there are ends of holes, right, where balls are landing and possibly hitting pavement and careening off, or in the Skillman specific area, that's the kind of the end of a long shot, or correct me if I'm wrong, it's just an area where there's high velocity and high travel. So these are the most sensitive areas of the course, and where we've gotten reports.
I mean, again, I'm with Mr. Plumer in that, a street is another matter. Like, you can't help but drive down Wakena. So if balls are hitting cars going by,
Right.
that makes a little more sense to address it. The rest of the places near the golf course, they've been there forever, I don't know, it just seems like overkill. And Mr. Pellegrini had mentioned concern about, first of all, we got, 10, 11, and 12 down by the water. There's obviously a lot of waterfowl. I know all the golf courses have issue with geese. I don't know what impact these sorts of nets might have on the other. I actually hit a baby duck on that course. Oh, that's so bad. But the other
On water.
wildlife that,
Yeah, the answer to that question is that if and when DEC requires that we pull a freshwater wetlands permit, we're going to have to submit to that process and provide that information. And it's quite possible that DEC does not give us a permit, even if this board...
for the nets.
Correct. This board could grant us that relief, and DEC might say, you know what, there's too many endangered species, there's tidal wetlands, you're disturbing too much soil, and they give us a denial. It's possible.
Have you explored that?
They
Well,
don't have to yet.
Well,
DEC and that process is, it's protracted, it's mystifying at times, and in large part it depends which region. Region 3 can be different than Region 1. Depends on the reviewing attorneys, the reviewing scientists. You can get different answers in different regions. So, species, right, whatever.
Submitted that right now?
Not yet, but we will have to potentially do species delineations, wetland delineations to identify where those sensitivities are.
As
When-
part of these nets or for something else?
No, for these nets, as a consequence of your board's approval. So those issues will be studied, they will be vetted. A state agency obviously is going to have oversight.
So if we asked you to get DEC approval first and then come back, is that ridiculous, or?
No, I don't think that would be possible under the circumstances here, because we will have no reason to apply for that permit unless we have approval
Okay.
to do the work. So we would need your approval first,
Got it.
and then we have to submit to that
Understood.
process.
The next, go ahead. No, Mrs. Adams, you go.
What's the cost of this?
Several $100,000, it's not cheap.
Okay. Per year, do you have any idea of the cost of the damage that possibly these balls
Well,
happening?
you want to speak to that, Ron?
I mean, if you're talking about 12, 15 car windshields at $400 apiece, you're
Okay.
looking at about $6,000. If you're looking at replacing a couple of windows on the front of a house, it's probably 10 grand, 12 grand to the moon. The only situation that I've incurred that was more than that was, again, in front of Judge Engel. I had a agreement with a gentleman from the ECAC, I think that's the arbitration group in the county courts. There was a $1,500 item which my ownership group agreed to pay with the idea that it was a one-time fee, and gentleman reneged on it, and it was just swept out, and the decision was reversed, and he.
So I think, Ms. Adams, you were referring maybe to another issue altogether, which is, if this is an ongoing concern, perhaps, of replacing a windshield, replacing a window, why not build that into our budget versus constructing these? And I think the answer to that question is, again, this is a neighborhood with children, with not just elderly people, but anyone who's struck by a ball with enough velocity in the right place. This could be a really serious physical harm. And that's really what we're after here, which is we don't want that bad case.
May I address Ms. Adams? May I address you for a second?
Sure.
Coming from the club in its private stages, what had happened was the club had a slush fund. Maybe it wasn't this member or that member, but it was known as one of their members did the damage. So at the end of the year, if there was $10,000 damage and there was 100 members, they got assessed $100 apiece for this particular cost. And Middle Bay, I guess, set the tone that my ownership group wanted to follow in terms of being neighborly and helping the damages. And that's where we were. Through my tenure there in the last 25 years, it's just been where, hey, we would love if the guy who hit the ball knocked on the door and said, "I'm sorry, I hit the ball, here's my name and number." But just like in Roosevelt Field, some people that bump into your car leave their name and number on your windshield, and some people don't. And it's very hard for us to track, and we've did the best we can to follow the suit of what Middle Bay as a private club started.
Okay, so if I'm driving down Skillman and I happen to be in the right place at the wrong time and a ball hits my windshield, so you're liable for that?
No.
No, according to
No.
the 4 times in small claims court, I'm not.
No,
Right.
the golfer is responsible for the shot. Now, the golfer is a licensee at the facility, so the analysis, it shouldn't go any further than that. The golfer ultimately has the responsibility. That doesn't mean that there haven't been courts that have attempted to interpret it and to impugn the club, but there's a lot of different circumstances, and there's no clear black letter law that says universally one way, this is it.
Right, because if you're at a ballpark and a ball hits you,
Yeah,
you can forget about suing.
right.
Mr. Wright, I have one more question.
Yes, sir.
In 2024, how many people inside the court and on the 18 holes got hit with a ball, got hit with a cart? were injury, in other words, were there more than 100 instances of that?
Not even close.
Okay, so you would say that the balls going over the fence would be more than somebody getting hit with a ball on the course, let's say they're on a different hole, or somebody hits it?
Well, you know, a golfer's moving in a cart constantly, and a house is stationary, so it's...
No,
and it-
but what I'm trying to sort of say is that it's sort of a risk you take.
Correct. We do have, and I apologize for not bringing it, and I should have given it to Mr. Caruso as well. We do have a waiver that, how it holds up, I don't know. I'm not an attorney, but we do have a waiver that states, these are the guidelines and the grounds of playing golf here. You are responsible.
My point, and I think some of the board's point, is that the amount of balls going over the fence and the amount of people being hurt at Middle Bay are minuscule in relationship with the amount of shots that are taken. That's all. Thanks.
Have you had any serious situations where someone was hurt physically, say, across the street when somebody walked out of their house or something?
I do know of one gentleman on the Lynx Drive side that was in fact sitting in his yard and got hit in the head with the golf ball. I immediately tried to locate the guys hitting the ball through our GPS unit, which tracks the carts, drove around the corner to his address to, make sure he was in fact okay. It's a tough situation. I have to go there. I felt like I was walking in the door as the big bad wolf. Meanwhile, his son Caddy there, and lovely family. It's
Right.
just,
Right. No, the reason is because of the liability.
correct.
I think what
Insurance concern.
what really drives us here today is we're not going, admittedly, Mr. DeGrace, the statistics won't tell the full story here. We don't want this board, this town, and certainly not my client or any of the people who live near this course to be part of a bad case example where there, God forbid, there's a minor child out who's playing, who gets struck, who's seriously injured, or anyone for that matter of any age. That's a case that we can avoid potentially by a little bit of sensible planning, and that's why we're here. So we're really, again, this is not the perfect solution, and we acknowledge that. But we don't want to be in a situation where a child, a mother, anyone is hurt because, look, the numbers were off, right? And that stray shot with those crazy odds actually struck a person and careened off the road, and now you have a tragedy. And that's what we want to avoid here. And no, I appreciate that. I just wanted to highlight that. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, for now. Thank you.
But first, we would like to swear in everybody who intends on speaking, whether you're in favor or opposed. So if you would please stand up, and Mr. Owens will swear you in. So we'll go down the list in no particular, in the order of people who have signed in. Mr. Brandy, Daniel Brandy? Mr. Brandy left. May. Okay, Eileen Berman? Stand up, please. Yes, he did. Yeah.
My name is Eileen Berman. I live at 420 Freeman Avenue in Oceanside. I have resided there for 30 years, and I was a member of Middle Bay when it was a private golf course. I wasn't prepared to speak as the first person today because we have a committee here that has been doing a lot of research on this matter. I do want to say that just for the look of the neighborhood, to put up a fence that's 10 feet above our homes is going to be a bit of an eyesore. personally, I don't know anybody that has actually gotten injured off of the golf course. Since I'm speaking first, and I'm going to tell the truth, I personally was hit on the golf course and had 75 stitches in my face.
Wow.
So it can happen. An accident can happen. And I don't think that putting up this obstructive, this eyesore to me in this beautiful neighborhood would really do anything, positive as for the, we're an environmentally secure area where, we have a lot of, as you know, birds and, who do not see fences and can get hurt and can get tangled. There could be problems with the fencing where it could be holes in the fencing. And there are issues, I would imagine, on Joaquina where people are driving by who have no idea that there is even a golf course there, that would be something that I think should be addressed. And perhaps in the back where the link, where this person, wherever that one or two homes. But we have a petition that we signed, and I think on our street, and I would have to really bring Elena up here because she has been the one that's been working on this. She's gotten, I would say 90% or 99% of the people are in disagreement with this fencing going up. So I really would like to turn it over to somebody really that has been working on this, and I appreciate you listening to me at this time, and I hope this does not come to be because it will really ruin the look of our whole neighborhood. Thank you.
Mr. Toffolo, would you like to speak?
Yes.
Go right ahead.
First of all, I want to thank you very much for allowing me to speak. I live on Joaquin Avenue for 54 years, and I want to thank Mr. Wright. I'm sorry? I live on Turf Road. I want to thank Mr. Wright for telling us there were 27,000 rounds of golf. I'm living there 54 years. I've never found one golf ball in my backyard. And I have a couple of recommendations. The attorney here said it would cost around $700,000 to put up these nets. Well, for $700,000, I would suggest you change the tee boxes for the 3 or 4 holes that it's affecting. That's number one. And number two, I think it's advisable that you speak to all the residents that live on Turf Road, and you'll see, I don't think any of them got a golf ball in their backyard. That's it.
Thank you.
The cost comment was several $100,000, just to be clear.
He left. They left. two left. That was Mr. Tofola. Next up is Elena Rodriguez and Ray. Are they here?
Hi, I'm Elena Rodriguez. I live at 218 Skillman Avenue. I submitted a whole packet of information. Yesterday, I submitted the petition with 123 signatures opposed, as well as a map of the area with all of the houses that were opposed. Quite frankly, I could have gotten a lot more people, I would have to assume, but when it was basically 100 to 1, 100 opposed and one person who wanted it, I kind of, threw my hat in the ring and said I thought that would suffice. I also sent pictures of the neighborhood. I put in photographs of trees that would have to be taken down on Skillman Avenue in order to put this up. I want to make a point of saying that those of us who signed the petition are not opposed to netting going on the Links Drive side of the golf course. Our concern and our opposition is specifically for the Skillman Avenue side. I also think that it goes without saying, but I must say, that nobody ever wants to see anybody hurt, nor do we want to necessarily see property damage. I've lived on the corner of Skillman and Freeman Avenue, directly across from the golf course, for almost 40 years. And I am maybe a little over 100 yards, probably from that tee box on Skillman Avenue at the 17th hole that causes, whatever might be considered now a ruckus in regard to this situation. In the 40 years there on Skillman Avenue, directly across the street from the golf course, I've been bitten by somebody's dog walking down Skillman. I've had a squirrel jump on me. Muskrats have ripped apart my pond to pieces. Superstorm Sandy destroyed half of my home. Someone broke into my car. My neighbor was violently stabbed by a random lunatic. Wow. My shed was broken into and garden equipment stolen. I watched my neighbor drive through her garage door. I've had a tree fall on my house. I've had a Romanian gypsy literally walk into the back of my home uninvited. I tripped over an outdoor watering hose and was in physical therapy for a year. I watched my street turn into a flowing river during Hurricane Irene. Raccoons have ripped apart my garbage, and rabbits have eaten my plants. I've had wind events knock down my trees onto the road. My dog has been run over by a car. My neighbor's son was hit by a car. I've been bitten by spiders, stung by bees, and pooped on by more birds than I care to remember, and much more than that. But in 40 years living directly across from that golf course, I have never once been hit by a golf ball. There is a degree of risk of some sort associated to daily life in general, and almost every decision that we make, and that includes buying a house across the street from a golf course. A whole community shouldn't have to bear the real-life burden associated with a commercial-like structure in the middle of a residential neighborhood, and all of the negatives that come with it, including danger to wildlife, the aesthetics, and lower property values because a few in the neighborhood feel unsafe. To the vast majority in the community, balls might be a nuisance, although some don't even think that, but they are not a true danger or hazard, and certainly not a risk to life. They have become much more a way of life. Dogs hunt them, kids collect them, and then sell them. We are all aware of them and all take whatever personal precautions we choose to eliminate the risk of any danger being done by them. If this is truly a safety issue, then the intention of Middle Bay is to stop balls from coming over to our homes by putting up a 40-foot high by 480-foot wide netting with poles, which, to get a real-life perspective, I would think that the height of this room is maybe somewhere around 20 feet, maybe 25. So the height is double this room, and the width is probably 8 times the width of this room. That's the size of the structure proposed to go up on Skillman Avenue, directly across the street from our homes. It's huge, it is intrusive, and it's a horrible thing to do to the homeowners when the vast majority of us don't have a problem with the golf balls. The people who don't have kids now have raised kids or have grandkids, and there's never been a problem. You can see by the petition and you can see by the highlighted areas on the map that there's literally 2 houses on all of Skillman Avenue, relatively new homeowners that are upset by balls coming across. The fact of the matter of that obstruction, if it was to go up, is that it wouldn't even protect all of the people on Skillman Avenue. The way my house is positioned, and many others, going from Freeman Avenue down towards Joaquina, my house in particular is on the corner of Skillman and Freeman. The tee box, 100 or so yards, maybe, I don't know if that's northwest, that structure would be directly in front of my house. But the way the balls are hit from that tee, they come at an angle. So the netting wouldn't even protect me. They come across Freeman Avenue to the front of my house, or the side, or the backyard, or wherever it might be. So you can have this put up in the neighborhood, impact the quality of life of many people, say it's done for protection reasons, but the vast majority of Skillman Avenue actually won't be protected. It's the select few, in my view, that have really filed the complaints in regard to it, that would probably be protected by this. Middle Bay has taken down a vast amount of trees over the course of the years without replacing them, quite frankly, as have some homeowners on Skillman Avenue. And I think a good faith effort to reduce maybe the amount of balls coming over would be to replant trees down Skillman Avenue. It would beautify the neighborhood, it would positively impact wildlife, and it would reduce the balls coming over, which, as I've said and shown, to the vast majority of us pose no real threat or no problem. I ask that the overwhelming objection by the whole of the community, noted by a signed petition and coordinated highlighted map, be considered by the board. We ask that the variance for the structure on Skillman be objected, and Middle Bay be encouraged to replace and install trees. The other thing in regard to these things, as you, sir, had actually mentioned earlier, the one in Hewlett is, I mean, that's the reality of these nets. They get holes in them, they start to droop. If you get a storm, the poles start to shift and they tilt and they lean, and it's not even a realistic solution to what might be perceived by some as a problem. Thank you.
Thank you. Next person is Jason and Jennifer Kravitz.
Good afternoon. Jason Krawitz. I live at 222 Skillman Avenue. My wife is here who can speak as well afterwards. So of course I'm opposed to this netting going up, and I want to address certain issues. I'll probably echo certain points that have been raised as well. First, let me touch on the history that was brought up as well, that was brought up at the outset of this proceeding. So in 1931, we heard Oceanside Golf and Country Club was established. Approximately 1947, I'm not sure if we got to this point, houses were starting to be built on Skillman, And in 1955, the golf course turned into Middle Bay Golf Club. Now we have approximately 78 years of coexisting peacefully, no issues, and then suddenly a problem happened, right? So the reason why we're here, why are we actually here today, what precipitated this? The applicant today, Middle Bay, what I'm alleging here today, and I think if an examination was done on Middle Bay who is here, or if the attorney is questioned, the applicant here is in name only. They are a straw man for literally one single family who complained about golf balls coming over. That is what precipitated this entire proceeding. That question was asked a couple of times in this hearing. Sort of vague, ambiguous answers were given, but that is the reality of why we're here.
Can you repeat for the last?
I intend to do
Sure.
that, but I want to
I'm
have
trying
all
to
the people
locate it on
opposed.
the map.
Getting into why we're here, Middle Bay is the applicant in name only. They are a straw man. We have been here, we have coexisted for 78 years with no issues whatsoever until all of a sudden there was a complaint by a single family. I'm not calling out any names, but that is the reality of what happened. Middle Bay didn't want this, Middle Bay does not want this. They are literally going through motions over their issues with one particular family.
Well, don't speak for them.
I will not speak on it, but that is the reality of the situation, and I would implore the board here to question Middle Bay here regarding that, and that would certainly come out. Now, Elena, my neighbor, has produced as evidence a printout of the map. We see the houses, the golf course in question, and it's highlighted as to who is opposed and who is for. Now, knowing that Middle Bay is essentially just a straw man here, they don't even want this to happen. Do you think any business?
Please don't say that though, because they're here advocating for it, and we
Sure.
can figure out what we can figure out. But I'd like to know what you think precipitated on some level, but let's not put words in Middle Bay's mouth or.
Okay. I'll let the board infer whatever they would like based upon what's being presented. But if we're going to do what is equitable in this particular situation, if we look at the map of what's been submitted as evidence, you're going to find 7 houses that are there. 5 of them are highlighted, and let me just refer back. I'm talking about the directly impacted zone on Skillman. What is a directly impacted zone?
I'm highlighting it as we go.
Okay, so those where the nets are directly in front of the houses. We have, there's 7 houses over there that are directly impacted by the nets on Skillman. There are 5 homeowners that are against it. One is in favor of the netting going up, and the other is somewhat indifferent, would like to see a solution, not necessarily nets. It's a little unclear. If we're going to do the equitable approach amongst homeowners, it should be a very simple tally of yeses and nos. And if you do that, certainly the net should not go up. Also, regarding the placement of the nets, this area of Skillman Avenue, of course, now Skillman Avenue, if anyone is familiar with that area, there could be golf balls in any area on Skillman. I don't consider that a hazard, I know. It's probably one of the most frequented blocks in all of Oceanside with respect to joggers, people walking their dog. I observed today, I have firsthand knowledge of an older woman who was walking a stroller, presumably there's a baby inside, and probably her grandchild, who was probably about 3 or 4, just collecting some golf balls along the fence. That's considered a fun activity for many people, as we see it's customary along Skillman Avenue. Now that's throughout the entire Skillman Avenue. The question becomes, where did we get this placement from with these 7 houses on Skillman and not the rest of Skillman Avenue? Again, I'm asking the board to infer certain things I addressed earlier, but the placement is completely arbitrary. When it was asked of the applicant precisely why we chose those areas, well, that's where we've had the most complaints. That's not the areas where we've had. Maybe that's the area where a single family has complained, and that's why they chose that area to appease one particular homeowner. But as far as considering
Number of incidents.
really any investigation that was actually done to consider where balls go over, it was completely arbitrary. There was no true investigation done, and this was done just, again, I'm alleging here to appease one owner. Now, don't take it from me or anybody here that there is an actual real benefit of the view of a golf course. You can take it through our taxes. If you go to My Nassau Property and look up any of our homes, you'll see it shows that we actually pay more taxes based upon our view. Certainly that does not include having a net over there. I want to get to some of the points that were made with respect to the 5 prongs of the variance, just some notes that I was taking here. Most significantly, we have to get to the first point. I mean, that's really everything. What's going on here? Will putting these nets alter or change the characteristics of this neighborhood? Without a doubt, undoubtedly it will. Skillman Avenue is probably, putting aside maybe certain waterfront properties or new construction, probably the most scenic and beautiful blocks in all of Oceanside. And this is what we're alleging that we should be doing to it, at least based upon the applicant. It will completely change the attractiveness of this block. Right now, it is the most aesthetically pleasing block. You look down the block, you can see it through the submission by Elena, my neighbor. It's full of trees. Of course, you can see the golf course view, and you happen to have many houses and homeowners who have kept up with their houses, and it all looks really nice. To put up a netting and have this commercial feel, this enclosed feeling, it's going to take away from, again, I'm emphasizing, probably one of the nicest blocks in all of Oceanside. And now the question becomes, for what? Why are we doing this? Are we going to actually solve a problem? We heard from the applicant today that this might not even help. One thing I do want to present for the board to consider is I have an article from golf.com, if I could just present it for all of you and you can read it at your leisure.
We'll accept it in evidence. Do you want to show it to Mr. Caruso?
Thanks. So in this article, it was written in 2020, it's golf.com. I have the web address noted on the top of the page. I hand wrote that because when I printed it, it left out the URL, left out the web address. When you read that article, you're going to see that the golf balls tend to go, depending on the skill level and the swing speed, anywhere from 45 feet to 120 feet. So again, the question becomes, what are we doing here? Are we accomplishing a goal? It's being proposed to put up netting when the netting doesn't even achieve its intended purpose. We hope maybe it'll be okay. Maybe it'll be for the safety of the community. Well, most of the community doesn't want this, and that's clear through the evidence that's been submitted. The homeowners are not concerned about safety. In fact, if we actually would all sit outside and observe Skillman Avenue on a day-to-day basis, you'll find more people walking on Skillman Avenue than probably on any other block in all of Oceanside, just because of how scenic it is, and it is such a pleasant place, again, to run, walk your dog, and hang out with your kids, and walk your kids along the block. Certainly, you're not getting the feeling from many people walking on Skillman that they are scared for their safety. That is certainly not the case. I want to make the point, well, you know what, I'm getting into the 5 prongs. So, again, regarding the character, it completely alters and changes the characteristics of Oceanside, of this neighborhood. This is a block that not only the local community enjoys, but is also a block where people from outside of the community will drive through just to get to the golf course. And it's nice, actually, when you drive through one of the most scenic blocks to get to this course that people enjoy. The netting will only be harmful to anybody. Certainly changes the complete character of our neighborhood. Regarding the second prong that was brought up, there was a point made regarding the second prong. We're trying to avoid bad shots from coming over, so that's one of the reasons why we're putting up this net. Again, the netting doesn't achieve its intended purpose. Golf balls fly 45 to 120 feet in the air. This netting is not going to solve the problem. What's it going to do? Again, it's going to give people the false sense of security. I could walk along the block and I could be perfectly safe, but netting has issues. Netting could have holes, they could become damaged itself, not to mention all the trees that are there that actually do stop balls sometimes will have to be cut down. So we may even make the situation worse. There are very tall trees there, possibly even higher than where the netting higher than the netting itself, particularly in the season when the leaves are out, which would slow down the ball. We may even make a situation worse. Regarding the substantiality of the variance, getting to the totality of the circumstances, when you look at the totality of the circumstances, the easiest thing to consider is, well, what does the community want? Is it one family or is it everybody? What's been put into evidence it is so clear that the community of Oceanside, and certainly the ones that are most directly impacted by this proposal, are not interested in this netting going up. So when you consider the totality of the circumstances, that should be the easiest point to consider, one of them. As far as having any sort of adverse impact regarding certain points that were made on prong 4, we're actually just taking, we're completely hoping in this net going up that it won't have any impact on wildlife. We don't know, we're just guessing. If you Google it, I'm sure we can. I'm sure there are instances of birds getting stuck in netting. We're certainly completely changing the habitat of all the birds and all the wildlife that have their habitats within all the trees that will need to be cut down through this proposal. And as far as certain points that were made when discussing prong 5 of achieving a variance, it was mentioned that they discovered this was a problem because they talked with the neighbors, and neighbors was made out to be plural. Maybe today, while there's some people are in favor, most people, of course, are opposed to this going up. Maybe plural is correct today, that there are a number of homeowners who would like to see this go up. But at the time that they started this investigation as to whether they needed netting or not on Skillman Avenue, it was one single family. And I actually think if you go back to the record and review, you'll find that that was essentially acknowledged during the presentation.